Yeah, it's going. That also went. I stopped it. So I better hit start so that it doesn't, like, go automatically again. Yeah, I muted my microphone for the end of the last recording, but basically just interkeyed my way through the dialogue of the intro again. It appears to be exactly the same as that for the, if you play as Coco. I mean, not Coco, Kokoro. Nothing changes, but in spite of that, what appears to be the skip button, which to me appears to be numpad minus, and it also seems to be, I forget which one. No, I don't want to do that. A main key for it as well, but didn't let me skip it, even though I have I have already read on. So that didn't work. So I got to review it, and I noticed that I somehow remembered something wrong, which is very like me to do. If you remember, I really get messed up on the intro of Ever 17, if you think back to that one. So I falsely attributed the line, "The shadow has come," to the shadow herself, or to the murderer herself. The murderer herself said, What is self?" That is what the murderer said. "The shadow has come." It was said by a patient in the hospital, whose throat was slit. And that person also and Satoru both know of the term the shadow, used to refer to a person who kills. So Satoru and this person who said the shadow has come in the hospital might have related backstories. But obviously the person murdered in the hospital is not Satoru, otherwise he would have been murdered in the hospital, unless you have some weird twist that explains that that's Satoru. And Satoru knowing the term the shadow is not actually evidence that he's the murderer. I was taking that as evidence he's the murderer. It's not. There's no evidence. So, those are my mistakes that I managed to catch in the redo. Also, another thing I noticed I didn't notice the first time is that the Inibushi Kaiko that you see in that flash sideways looks a lot younger than the one that we see at Sphia during the mainline story. And so the person that she's talking to may be someone like, maybe the guy whose throat got slit, or maybe it's the son of Yomogi and, what's her face? What's her first name? I know her last name is Utsumi. Or it might have been Satoru. We don't know which character she was talking to. But it could be either of those. Or Uni. Although Uni and the son of Yomogi would have been very young, likely, at the time. Anyway, so that's the mistakes I caught. Now that I've gotten through the intro, I should be able to now get into stuff that's unique to Satoru, which I'm really looking forward to doing because it seemed like Satoru has more idea about what's going on holistically than Kokoro did. Kokoro just got caught up in something she had no idea what she was getting into. Satoru knows more about what's going on, but not a whole lot more, right? He didn't seem like he had a better idea about who his killer was than Kokoro did in Kokoro's route. So he knows more, but not an awful lot. Prenatal. Well, that's pretty intense of a title. I get the backlog here because... Oh, was that the skip? Which one's the backlog? I forget which one's the backlog. I felt as if I was being embraced by a sea teeming with coacervate. I don't want to do that. There we go. A dense ocean current coiled around me as if to lap over my whole body. I can't go back further because apparently if you load a save, it doesn't load the save history. Great. Okay. I do not know what coacervate means. I could look it up in the tip section. That's a big word for me. The vicious colloidal ocean water was burning hot. I mean, I guess. Sure. I think I know what a colloid is. It's like when something's not really dissolved in the water, but it's suspended in it. If that makes any sense. I couldn't breathe. He's basically just saying the water's like thick. I writhed, agonized in the scorching hot liquid. Is this a dream? The question crossed my mind out of nowhere. So I'm presuming when Satoru, falls from the clock tower, he wakes up in Kokoro's body. So that's what I presume is what's happening here. If this is reality, then it might have traveled 4 billion years back in time and awoken in the primordial sea. Well, that's not canon. Extending a sensory organ. Oops, I accidentally just bumped the microphone. I have no idea what that happened in the audio. So sorry if you heard just a giant bump there. It's extending a sensory organ, which was neither an arm nor a feeler. So what was it, your leg? I tried to search for my body. The thing I called my body was nowhere to be found. Only a soft, flabby aggregation of amino acids surrounded me. Well, you're really going for that whole primordial soup thing, are you? I began to melt into the boiling water as the water also melted into me. I can no longer tell where my own existence begins or ends. I felt as if this whole vast sea were myself, and that there was no singular entity in existence here. But I am here. Whether or not I have substance, there is no doubt that I exist here. I perceive colors with a sense which is not sight. I listen to sounds with a sense which is not hearing. I smell odors with a sense which is not smell. My surroundings were completely saturated by a dazzling red light, a rhythmic sound, and a sweet scent that felt as if it would dissolve. I could both perceive and consider them. Yet the origin of my thoughts didn't appear to be my brain. So, where were these thoughts coming from? Perhaps the great sea surrounding me is controlling my thought processes. Or could it be that perhaps this very thought is false? If that's the case, then I'm not thinking, not feeling anything. Do I not exist? Upon thinking this, I was suddenly assailed by an unbearable anxiety. I'm not here. I am not here. Terror swirled within me, gradually converging on one point before exploding. I struggled. I continued to struggle as though I would go mad. Seeking an exit, seeking light, seeking substance. I wanted to escape from this world as quickly as possible. Help me. Get me out of here. I am here. That's kind of fun to say. So that was a description of either being a disembodied soul, hell, the outer darkness, or being in a sensory deprivation tank for too long.
どうしたんだおいしっかりしろ
What happened? Hey, settle down. I won't do that again.
落ち着け落ち着くんだ
Calm down, just calm down.
一体何があったって言うんだ
Jeez, can't you just tell me what the hell is wrong with you? Okay.
そうだもう大丈夫だ何も心配いらないな
That's right, everything's fine now, so no need to worry, okay?
ここは
Where
どこだ
am I? When I came to, I was in an unfamiliar place. I was sitting on a wooden floor with my back pressed against a wall. No, it would be more appropriate to say I was being pressed. The one holding me in place was a giant of a man, startlingly large and rugged as a rock. Well, they made a good job of, like, giving contrasts between the inner monologues of Kokoro and Satoru. Satoru is, like, very poetic. Kokoro is more, like, simple, straightforward, and practical, and impulsive. I don't know if this is a male or woman stereotype, though. I also don't know which one of these they wrote first. You play as Kokoro first, but it might be possible that the writers wrote Satoru first. There might be a reason to do it that way. Might be easier to do it. But anyway. I craned my body upward to look at his face. Despite his firm grip on my shoulders, his face wore a troubled expression. I remembered that man from somewhere. It's faint, but his face was etched like an after-image into a corner of my memory. Okay, so he knows what Utsumi's husband looks like. Which would make sense, because he probably would visit sometimes, right?
あんた誰だっけ
Who are you?
どこかで見かけたような気がするんだが
I feel like I've seen you somewhere before, but... As I asked that, the man caught his breath and stared at
やっ
me.
ぱりどっかで会ったよな
As I thought, we've met somewhere before, right? It's funny, because they're like, you're using Satoru's voice actor, but, like, he's in Kokoro's body, so his voice is not going to sound like that. So, like, I have no idea what his voice is supposed to sound like.
それとも人違いか
It's like, how did he not notice his voice was all different? Or am I mistaking you for someone else?
なあ聞いてんだろおっさん
Hey, can you hear me, old man? The man blinked repeatedly, as if finally coming to his senses.
大丈夫なのか
Is he talking like a guy? Like, is he referring to himself as, like, Boku and stuff? This could be, like, much weirder in Japanese than it is in English. Because they might talk more differently between the sexes in Japan than Americans do. Are you alright?
あ
発作はもう収まったんだよな
Have your spasms settled down?
発作
Spasms?
今までめちゃくちゃに暴れまくってたじゃないか
You were having a violent fit.
おかしくなっちまったんじゃないかと思って心配したんだぞ
I was pretty worried. I thought you lost it. The man suddenly let go of my shoulders.
ああんなことが起こった後だからね
Well, you have been through quite an
き
ordeal.
っと怖い夢でも見たんだろうけれど
I'm sure you've been having some pretty scary dreams, but dreams, that nightmare, as red as fresh blood. Even just thinking about it made me shudder. I see, so I was struggling because of a nightmare. Really, just like a little kid. Sneering in self-derision, I replied by shaking my head a little. Well, I suppose the dream doesn't matter. More importantly, my top priority was to find out where I was and what was happening. Pushing aside the mountain of a man who was blocking me, I tried having a look around. The room enfolded in rough-hewn wood, a small window, a crude stove, a plain table. Before the table stood the figure of a woman. The woman, who wore her hair in an updo, was shivering as she sat on a wooden chair.
リン
Lin! The word came from my lips instantly. I couldn't help but cry out her name, because I knew her. I could never forget her. The memories that we made together were burned so clearly into my mind that I couldn't forget them even if I tried. Lin and I had gone out for 2 whole years.
リンリン
Lin!
どうしたんだよなんでお前がこんなところに
What happened? Why are you here? Raising my voice, I rushed over to her. Lin's eyes opened wide and her eyebrows arched. Was it the sudden tension that made her face stiffen like that? For the two of us to suddenly meet again after a year and a half apart, and in a place like this. We hadn't spoken to one another since we broke up. We hadn't caught a single glimpse of the other, heard each other's voices, or paid any mind to any rumors about one another. I'd say feeling bewildered by our first reunion in a long time was natural. So I stood stock still in front of her, not knowing what to say. Lynn and I stared at each other silently. The atmosphere between us grew awkward and tense, for reasons I had not yet realized. This is way more interesting. It's been a while. Just mess with her more. Why are you here?
リン、久しぶりだな。
Lynn, it's been a
あ
while.
れからどうしてたんだ？
What have you been up to since then?
連絡ぐらいくれればよかったのに。
You at least gotten in touch.
ほら、約束しただろ。
Look, didn't we promise
俺たちは、別れても、
that even if we were to
別れ
part,
ても普通の友達でいようって。
even if we were to part, that we'd still remain friends?
なのにお前は、
And yet you
ちょっと待って。
stop right there.
あんた、喧嘩売ってんの？
Are you looking for a fight or something? Abruptly, Lynn began to speak.
慣れ慣れしくお前なんて呼ばないでくれる？
Don't you address me in that buddy-buddy tone. She leveled a menacing glare at me.
それに、名前、
And my name.
どうしてあんたが私の名前を知ってるのよ？
How do you know my name?
まさか、盗み聞きしてたの？
You weren't eavesdropping or something, were you?
私がこの男に名前を教えたとき、あんた本当は意識があったんでしょ？
Were you actually awake when I told this guy my name just now?
今までは気を失ったふりをしてただけで。
You were just pretending to be unconscious until
ね
now.
え、どうなの？答えなさいよ。
So how'd you know? How? Tell me. Even if she ordered me to answer, I couldn't. The words she said may as well have been some unknown language for all I understood them.
おい、どうしちまったんだよ、リン。
Hey, what's wrong, Lynn?
まさか俺のことを忘れたわけじゃ。
You couldn't have forgotten about me.
忘れる？忘れようにも忘れようがないわ。
Forget? I couldn't even if I wanted to.
だって私、初めっからあんたのことなんて知らないもの。
Because I don't even know you to begin with.
知らない？
Don't know?
知らないってどういうことだ？
What do you mean you don't know me?
どういうことも何もないわよ。
I mean exactly what I said.
あんたみたいなやつに会った覚えは一度もないって言ってんの。
I've said that I've never so much as laid eyes on you before.
そんな。
That's... Hearing those utterly unexpected words left me completely astounded. No, you really did forget about me? That'd be like pain.
ねえ、もしも私が突然この世界から消えてしまったらどうする？
Hey, what would you do if I suddenly disappeared from this world?
リンのいる世界を見つけるよ。
I would search for the world where you were.
じゃあ、その世界が見つからなかったとしたら？
Then what if you couldn't find that world?
そうだな。
Well,
多分、見つかるまで探し続けると思う。
I'd probably keep on searching until I found it.
嘘ばっかり。
You
人
liar.
の心は移ろいやすいものなのよ。
Isn't a person's heart something that changes easily?
永遠に燃え続ける炎なんてないの。
No flame keeps burning forever.
それじゃあ、リンだったら？
Then what about you, Lynn?
もしも突然、この世界から俺の存在が消え失せてしまったとしたら、どうする？
If I suddenly disappeared from this world, what would you do?
そうね。
Let's see.
熱いシャワーを浴びて、強いお酒を飲んで、月のワグマみたいに何ヶ月も眠るわ。
I would have a hot shower, drink some strong sake, and then go sleep for months and months like a black
き
bear.
っと半年も経てば、あなたのことなんて忘れてしまうもの。
And once 6 months had passed, I'd forget all about you. Well, she didn't.
なるほど。
I see.
何かご不満でも？
Are you unhappy with that?
いや、別に。
No, not at
そ
all.
う。で
Really?
も、 今私が言ったことは本心よ。
Well, what I said just now were my true feelings. Or they weren't. They were not, actually.
だから会いたいと思うの。
That's why I want to stay with you.
毎日でも四六時中でもできることなら一秒も眠らずにずっとあなたのことを見つめていたい。
Every day, 24/7, without sleeping for even a second if I could. I want to look at you forever.
少しでも目をそらしたらすぐにあなたのことを忘れてしまうような気がするから。
Because I get the feeling that if I looked away from you for even a moment, I would end up forgetting about you right away.
口づけをするのも体を重ねるのもそう。
Things like kissing you, sleeping with you. Yeah,
私はあなたを失いたくないの。
I don't want to lose you.
体のどこかにあなたがいたことの証を刻みつけておきたいのよ。
I want to engrave the proof that you exist into every part of my body.
ねえ、もう一度だけ
Hey, just once
あな
more,
たを刻んで。
can I engrave you into me?
リン
No romance elements in this game whatsoever, apparently. Sorry, I just dropped a shoe. Ooh. I stood still and silent in front of her. Gently smooching back a stray hair, she walked away from me without another word. Once 6 months had passed, I'd forget all about you. Several years ago, she said those words to me, and now they'd become a reality. It's like I didn't understand this at all. A gaping hole opened within my heart. A feeling of loss stole the energy from my body.
どういうことだ？
What's this?
君たちは知り合いなのか？
Do you two, know each other? Folding his arms, the man looked from Lin to me to Lin and back again.
知り合いなわけないでしょ。
No, we don't.
さっきからそう言ってるじゃない。
I just said that, didn't
まあ
I?
まあ、そうムキになるなって。
Now, don't get so angry.
単なる誤解だろう。よくあることじゃないか。
Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. It's not uncommon. Huh. Lin turned away and went to sit down on the bottom bunk. Then,
誤解なんかじゃないよ。
misunderstanding? There's no misunderstanding. Yeah, he would know. He would know. Yui knows everything, so he knows, but I don't know where he's going with this in the moment is probably going to be different than. But whatever. Suddenly I heard a
ただ
voice.
この人は
This
忘
person
れちゃってるだけなんだから。
just forgot. I turned in the direction of the voice. On the top bunk was a boy, perched with both hands on the edge of the bed, looking down at us. A face I'd seen somewhere before. Right, at Svea. No, more than just a face that I'd seen, it was a face I should have been very familiar with. However, I couldn't remember anything beyond that. Why not? He's with Svea. Where we met, when I saw him, whether or not he knows me too. I don't remember a thing. That's weird. Nonetheless, the feeling that I know this boy was spreading somewhere deep within my chest.
ちょっと聞き捨てならないわね。
Hold on just a minute, I can't ignore that.
あんた今忘れちゃってるだけってそう言ったでしょ。
Did you just say I forgot? Lynn got up suddenly and walked over to stand right below the boy.
私は何度も言うようだけど忘れてるわけじゃなくて。
As I've said over and over again, I haven't forgotten a
違
thing.
うってば。
You're wrong.
え？
Wrong.
違うって何が違うのよ。
What am I wrong about?
僕はリンのことを言ったんじゃないんだ。
I wasn't talking about you, Lynn.
私のことじゃないなら誰のこと？
That if it wasn't me, who? The boy gritted his teeth, frowning. Still looking down, he slowly raised his left hand.
この人だよ。
It's you. With hostility in those words, he pointed his slender finger at me. Me? Why? I hadn't forgotten anything. Lynn's the one who's lost her memory. Yeah, but you don't remember Uni for some reason.
参ったな。
Really? I give up.
君たちは一体どういう関係なんだ？
How the hell are you all related?
僕には君たちの言ってることがさっぱり
What are you talking about?
理解できないよ。
I don't have the slightest clue. Neither do I. Something's wrong here. I had the feeling that I'd been swallowed up into a ridiculously intricate plot. That's meta. I have no basis for this. And yet a vague premonition, a growing sense of unease swirled inside my chest. Yeah, something should be funny about your chest right now, sir. And your hair. And between your legs. And your everything about you, basically. Your height.
なあ、誰かちゃんと説明できるやつはいないのか？
Maybe things would be more distinct if the person you swapped in from, if you happen to be a fat person. Look, is there anyone here who can explain what's going on? I sure can't. Not in the whole game, that is. I can give you the simple cop-out explanation of, well, someone body swapped.
この険悪なムードを引きずったまま一晩を共に過ごすのは嫌だろう。
Leaving things as they are for everyone in a bad mood won't make for a good night's sleep, eh? No one responded. Lynn ostentatiously averted her eyes before heaving a great sigh. The boy... Without saying anything, he jumped down and walked past me, heading for the
おい
doorway.
どこに行くんだユニ？
Hey, where are you going, Uni?
話はまだ終わったわけじゃ。
We aren't done talking yet. Uni. A name I'd heard before. The name and face of the boy were etched deep into my consciousness. It seems I really do know him well. But I'm still not sure how I know
ど
him.
こにも行かないよ。
I'm not going
行
anywhere.
きたくったって行けるわけないじゃないか。
I couldn't even if I wanted to. Uni stopped in a corner of the room, turning away as he spoke. There was a rectangular hole at his feet. Affixed to the side of the hole was a wooden ladder leading downward.
薪を取りに行くだけだよ。
I'm just going down to get some
夜
firewood.
中になったら今よりももっと寒くなるから。
It'll get a lot colder when night falls. Well, he would know.
待ちなさいよ。
Wait a sec. Then stopped Uni as he placed a hand on the ladder.
そのコート、いい加減脱いだら？
Will you take that coat off already?
私のなのよ。返してよ。
It's mine, you know. Give it back.
やだ。拾ったんだから僕のものだ。
I found it, so it's mine.
何よ、そのデタラメな論理は。
What kind of... I have to say this. What kind of bullshit reason is that?
遺失物法第1条。知らないの？
That's 27 minutes into the games, into the recording, so I probably won't have some sort of monetization restriction. Not that my channel's monetized anyway, but... Do you know how the first paragraph of the Lost Property Act goes?
他人の遺失したる物件を習得したる者は速やかに
Upon finding a lost article belonging to another person,
遺
the
失者または所有者その物件回復の請求権を有する者にその物件を返還しまたは警察署長にこれを差し出すべし
I skipped that line, but I don't care. Or turn it over to either its lawful owner or other possessor with legal right to claim the article. It should otherwise be turned in to the nearest police station.
ただし法令の規定により私に所有所持することを禁止たる物件は返還するの限りにあらず。
However, there's nothing in that law that demands that prohibited materials be returned to their owner.
は？何言っちゃってるわけ？
Huh? What the hell are you talking about?
そのコートは所持することを禁止たる物件でも何でもないでしょ？
How is that coat prohibited materials?
何よ？
What?
お取り込み中のところすまないが一つ気になったことがあるんで聞いてもいいかな？
Sorry to interrupt you in the middle of this, but can I ask you about something that's been bothering me?
ユニはそのコートをどこで拾ったんだっけ？
Uni, where'd you find that coat?
それは
That's,
機体の残骸の中から。
in the wreckage of the plane. Well, this is kind of... Okay, so already something strange is going on, because when you play as Kokoro, you go back to the wreckage site. I don't forget which day, it's like day 3 or something. And then you find a bunch of coats and a satellite phone. and a toilet seat cover. One of the coats is identical to Meizumi's coat. Okay, so we know in the plane there was a coat that was identical to Meizumi's. But Meizumi had her own coat, which she was wearing. So there are two coats of that type in the wreck site technically, but Meizumi was crashed wearing hers or something. So they bought both of them. Here, Uni recovers one from the crash site, but he does so early. That could be that this just happened off screen when you play as Kokoro, and by the end of this, Meizumi's going to get her coat back, and that's just how it's going to be. And so that when we go back to Kokoro being here, Meizumi has her coat. So this is not necessarily something to be alarmed about, but it might be.
そいつはおかしいだろ
Strange, isn't
う。
it?
君は墜落の衝撃で機外へと放り出され、気がついた時には雪原の中に。
You were thrown out of the plane from the impact of the crash, awoke in the
も
snow.
ううるさいな。
She just shut up already.
分かったよ。脱げばいいんでしょ。脱げば。
I get it. I'll take it off. After interrupting the man in mid-argument, Uni resigned, removed the coat that he was hanging off him.
ほら、返すよ。
Look, I'm giving it back. Rolling up the coat, he tossed it toward Lin.
もう乱暴に扱わないでくれる？
Could you handle it a bit more gently, please?
高かったんだからね、このカシミヤのコート。
Cashmere coats don't come cheap. Well, it's gonna get real wet, though. As Lin muttered a complaint, she gently patted off her reclaimed coat. I just kept silent as I watched their exchange from the sidelines. Not that there had been any room for me to cut in, even if I had wanted to. Plane? Wreckage? Impact? What were they talking about? My confusion only deepened. Well, you probably knew about the plane crash, didn't you? I would think Satoru knew about it. I just thought it happened a long time ago, like a year ago. So it would take him a while to recall it, maybe. Animus. Uni swiftly climbed down the ladder and disappeared. I looked down to the rectangular hole in the ground. There appeared to be some kind of storeroom down
なあ
there.
君
Hey, you. Having been addressed, I turned around.
名前教えてもらえないかな。
Will you tell me your name?
何かと不便だろ。名前を知らないと。
It's kind of inconvenient not knowing each other's names, isn't it? The man sat down on one of the wooden chairs, smoking a cigarette.
僕はよもぎだ。
My name's Yomogi.
よもぎ誠治。
Yomogi Seiji.
よもぎ誠治
Yeah, Yomogi Seiji. Yet again, a strange feeling overcame me. Just like with Uni, I'd heard this man's name before. Yomogi Seiji. Age 35, a mountaineer by trade. Alright, and this is Japanese, so Seiji's the first name, Yomogi's the last name. If I'm not mistaken, he should have a wife and kids. Why? Why are all these clear memories of him suddenly coming to mind? I'd never seen this man before. And yet, why?
どうしたんだい。何か気になることでも。
Oh, so he's getting imported knowledge? That's interesting. What's the matter? Is something bothering you? Yomogi inclined his head, a puzzled look on his face. Perhaps he'd read my expression. I replied,
あんたやっぱり俺に会ったことあるだろ
Oh, we've definitely met before, right? Saying this, I approached him. After thinking it over for a short
いい
while,
よ。
no. Yomogi shook his head, looking
うそう
dubious.
か
I see.
だが君の言ってるのがここに来る前という意味だとしたら答えはイエスになる。
But if you mean before coming to the shelter cabin, then the answer would be
も
yes.
っとも会ったというよりも見かけたという程度のものだけれど。
Although rather than met, it's more happened to see.
いつどこで見かけたんだ
When? Where was
あの
it?
小型旅客機の中でだよ。
On that small passenger plane.
小型旅客機
Small passenger plane. Come to think of it, he was saying something about crash in a plane a moment ago. I'm pretty good at getting a quick handle on the situation. If this many keywords are present, I can guess what happened to a certain degree. It's simple. Excluding me, the three of them were all on that plane. That plane crashed. I don't know how many other passengers survived, but at the very least, these three managed to get here by themselves. However, I had no memory of getting on an airplane. But
なあ、あんた今機内で俺の姿を見かけたってそう言ったよな。
hey, you said you saw me on the plane, right?
あ
Yeah.
本当か？
Really?
嘘なんてついてどうする？
Yeah, why would I lie about
本
that?
当さ、
It's the truth.
トイレに行こうと思って席を立った時、僕は君たちの姿を見かけたんだ。
When I got up to go to the bathroom, I noticed you too. Why is that the number 2?
君たち？
You too?
俺の他にも誰かそこにいたっていうのか？
You're saying there was someone there besides me? Bewilderment colored Yogamogi's face as he took a long drag from his
覚
cigarette.
えてないのか？
You don't remember?
何を？
Remember what?
何よって全部だよ。
Remember what? All of it.
だから全部ってなんだよ。
All of
あの
what?
飛行機が離陸してからこの雪山に墜落するまで、
What happened between the time the airplane took off and when it crashed on the
そ
mountain?
の間の記憶のことを言ってるんだ。
That's what I'm talking about. Chaos, chaos, chaos. A large quantity of information was streaming into my head like a series of raging waves, threatening to split my head into like a burst
ユニ
dam.
が君の隣に座ってただろ
Uni was sitting next to you,
う。
right?
機体の右舷、確か後ろの方だったな。
On the starboard side of the plane, towards the back, if memory serves.
君は通路側の座席に、ユニは窓側の座席にそれぞれ腰を下ろしていた。
You were sitting on the aisle seat and Uni had the window.
楽しそうに話してたじゃないか。
You look like you were having fun talking.
忘れたのかい？
Did you forget? I really couldn't remember. Did I get on a small passenger plane? Did I have fun talking to Uni beside me? Is that why I remember Uni's name and face? Kind of think of it, Uni said something along the same lines. This person just forgot. In short, memory loss? Is that how it
まあ
is?
そう思い詰めるな。
Well, don't think about it too
軽い
hard.
脳震盪だろ
You might have a slight
う。記
concussion.
憶はすぐに元に戻るさ。
Your memory will come back sooner or later.
それよりも、そろそろ教えてもらえないかな。
That aside, won't you tell me
名
now
前。
your name?
まさか自分の名前さえも忘れてしまったわけじゃ。
Don't tell me you even forgot your own
い
name.
や、覚えてる。覚えてるよ。
And then Lynn's gonna confront him about this. He's gonna find some mirror. He's gonna see his reflection. He's gonna freak out just like Kokoro did and get swapped back. Yes. No, I remember it. My mind was balancing on the verge of insanity. Trying desperately to keep hold of my senses, I
俺の
answered.
名前は
My
結
name
城堂
is
悟だ。
Yukido Satoru. Satoru being the first name, Yukido being the last name.
有機道悟？
They both recognize it. Yukido Satoru? Yomogi and Lin raised their voices to so near perfectly in unison that it seemed as though they planned it beforehand. Yomogi looked me over critically as though observing some strange life form, and Lin marched straight up to me with her mouth set in a hard line. Maybe, just maybe, Lin had remembered me at last.
レイ、
Lin, softly calling her by name, I moved towards her. We stood in front of the stove facing each other. A strange sense of unease overcame me. I soon realized that its source was in the way she looked at me. I was looking up at Lin. Lin was looking down at me. In truth, the difference in angles wasn't that great. But the fact that there was barely any difference between our heights to begin with, to me it was shocking. I tried to analyze this inexplicable phenomenon. I looked down. I thought I should check to make sure of my own feet. But then, at just that moment... At first I couldn't quite understand what it was that had happened to me. My vision swam. The strength of my legs left me and I fell to my knees. Right after that I was attacked by a violent pain. The pain spread in burning waves across my face and down my neck until my whole head was throbbing. Was I hit just now? If so, then I haven't a clue by whom or with what, though, or why there would be any reason for someone to hit me. I was only sure of one thing. Right there before my eyes was the person who hit me, Mayuzumi Lin. My blurry vision finally came back into focus. From where I knelt on the ground, I looked up and up at Lin as she towered over me. She glared imposingly down at me, her face flushed.
ふざけないでよ。
Don't you dare play games with me. Her voice was quavering with anger. There almost seemed to be a strange aura emanating from her, causing the air behind her to distort like a heat daze.
どういうつもりなの？
What exactly are you plotting?
なんで有機道悟なんて。
Why Yukido Satoru? I got to my feet, wiping a hand across my mouth. Something red was smeared across the base of my thumb.
変わってないな、お前。
Well, great. It was like someone else's body got smashed. It was not, at least it's not your fault, really. You haven't changed one bit, but you would hit a girl, though. That's smaller than you. Huh?
カッとなると、すぐに手を上げる癖だよ。
Still have that bad habit of getting physical whenever you lose your temper.
それから、わけのわからないことで突然怒り出すところも相変わらずだ。
And a tendency to fly into a rage when there's something you don't understand.
あんた、
You wanna
殺され
die?
たいの？
I cut her off. You wanna die?
それって、悟のふりをしてるつもりなのよね。
And moreover, are you planning on pretending to be Satoru now?
振り？
Pretending?
ふりじゃなくてなんだっていうのよ。
If you're not pretending, then what the hell is
その
this?
品のない言葉遣いも、私の名前を呼び捨てにしたことも、
Talking to me so casually, calling me by my first
全
name.
部、今までの全てが、私を陥れるための演技だったんでしょ？
Isn't everything up until now just an actor putting on to trick me?
まあ、もっとも、演技と呼べるほどのものでもないけどね。
Well, even with that said, this is hardly worthy of being called acting.
猿芝居、幼稚なお遊戯、具にもつかない滑稽な茶番としか言いようがないわ。
It's around the same level of artistry as a dog and pony show, or a kid's game of make-believe, or a worthless, ridiculous farce.
どうしちまったんだよ、本当に。
Lin, what are you doing here? Seriously.
俺は、悟だよ。
I'm Satoru.
振りも演技もしてない。
I'm not pretending or putting on an act.
俺こそが、正真正銘の有機道悟なんだ。
I am the real, genuine Yukido Satoru.
はあ？この後に及んでまだ続けるつもりなわけ？
Huh? Even after all that, you're still planning on to keep it up?
呆れたわ。
Unbelievable.
何なのよ、それ。
Just what is all this?
あんたは何を、どうしたいっていうの？
What do you want from me?
私をからかってるだけ？
Are you trying to make fun of me?
それとも、悪徳商法かなんかの勧誘でもするつもりなの？
Or is this meant to be some kind of
どっ
con?
ちにしろ、私を騙そうとしても無駄よ。
Well, you do whatever you want. It's no use trying to trick me.
私と悟の過去について、ある程度調べてきたみたいだけど、そんなものは何の役にも立たないわ。
It looks like you really have done a bit of investigating into my past with Satoru, but it's not going to do you any good.
残念だったわね。
Too bad for you.
今度誰かを騙すときは、相手を慎重に選んだ方がいいわよ。
Next time you try to trick someone, pick your target a little better, okay? Confused and bewildered, I was left speechless. There was a fatal discrepancy somewhere in my exchange with Lin just now. Like a pair of gears that don't line up properly, clattering along to no productive end. I am me, Yukido Satoru. There can be no mistake about it. And yet Lin isn't recognizing me as who I am as Yukido Satoru. I had a terrible feeling that my entire existence was being denied.
それにしても、寒いわね。
And more importantly, it's freezing in
この
here.
ポンコツストーブ。火力弱いんじゃないの？
This piece of crap barely deserves to be called a stove. Can't it heat this place any better?
ねえ、ヨモギ、なんとかしてくれない？
Hey, yo, Mogi, can't you do something about this? Lin sat down in front of the stove, arms crossed against the cold. Yomogi stood there as he was, as though frozen there, cigarette in mouth. The flame had already reached the filter and burned itself out.
ちょっと聞こえないの？
Hey, can't you hear me?
なんとかしてって言ってるでしょ？
I told you to do something. Lin shouted at him over her shoulder. The spent cigarette dropped from Yogomi's lips and onto the floor.
わかったよ。
Yeah, I got it. He gathered several blankets from the beds, then draped them over Lynn's shoulders. Lynn pulled them tight
コ
around
ー
her.
ヒ
Coffee. Eh?
ーコーヒー入れてくれって言ってんの。
Telling you to make me some
さっ
coffee.
さと動きなさいよ。
Move it already.
トロいんだから。
Honestly, you're so dull.
やれやれ。
Good, good
世話
grief.
の焼けるお姫様だ。
Her Highness is quite the pain in the ass. As he grumbled in complaint, Yomogi skillfully brewed a cup of coffee and carried it over to Lynn. Lynn accepted it without a word of thanks, and then after blowing on it a few times, she set her lips to the edge of the
ちょっ
cup.
と。何見てんのよ。
Hey, what do you think you're looking
目
at?
障りだからどっか行ってくれない？
You're an eyesore, so why don't you just go somewhere else? Those cold words were directed at me. My chest ached as though someone were squeezing it hard. I'm going to delay this process a bit. I'm going to stretch it out. I kept quiet. Struck by a sudden sense of helplessness, my thoughts and any sense of self deserted me.
なあ、そろそろ仲直りしたらどうなんだ？
Hey, why don't you just make up already? Yomogi
こう
spoke.
いうの、なんというか、あまり好きじゃないんだよな。
I don't know how to say this, but this is no fun for me either.
余計なお世話よ。あんたには関係ないじゃない。
Mind your own business. This doesn't concern you.
関係ないか。
It doesn't concern me, huh?
じゃあ彼女とは関係があるっていうのかい？
So then, you're saying it concerns her? Here we go. Yeah, the comment that these beginning parts where it's like this comical delayed realization about his lack of testicles. Her. I didn't mishear him, right? Because it sounded like Yogomi just said her just now, or however that is in Japanese.
あんた、脳みそ発酵してるでしょ。
How your brains begin to rot or something.
何度言わせれば気が済むのよ。
How many times do I have to say it before you're satisfied?
私は、こんな女に会ったことは一度もないの。
I've never seen this woman before in my life.
私と、この女は、一切、関係ないの。わかる？
I don't have anything to do with this woman. Got it? This woman. Woman. This time I was certain I hadn't misheard or imagined it. Taken aback, I looked myself over. A ribbon at my chest, a light pink shirt, high laced-up boots. The back of my hand was a soft white, and from my abdomen protruded two long, slender legs that looked perfectly at home there.
そんなバカな。
This can't be. The words left my mouth before I had time to think. Panicking, I put both hands to my chest. Though small, there were definitely two bulges there.
女
A woman.
女だ。
I am a woman? Why hadn't I considered this possibility until now? What? Undoubtedly, I felt like myself, no different from usual. That's why even in a certain part of my body, if a certain part of my body entered my field of vision, I didn't recognize it as anything other than a symbol of sorts. A finger was just a finger, an arm just an arm, a foot just a foot, all possessed so unconsciously I barely even noticed it. We don't see the thing in itself. When we see the passing landscape around us, the countless objects contained within it, we can't be said to be perceiving them exactly. We derive a simple general idea of each of the objects we see, and our thought patterns process them in that basic way. Until now, I just naturally thought of myself as myself. Within the human mind, there exists the pursuit of an identity and a sense of self. We're programmed to naturally think that the me of 10 years ago and the me of the present time are the same. Yet in practice, both physically and mentally, the two are almost completely different. In much the same way, I too was convinced that the me of before and the me of the present were identical. Therefore, even if my foot or a part of my clothing entered my field of vision, I didn't recognize them as anything other than the one of the components which makes up that which I think of as myself. In short, I did not see my appearance as anything worthy of special notice. Explaining how a boy thinks. It's kind of true. I derived only the general concept of my body and decided to just input that information into my brain. However, now that I make a conscious observation of my own appearance, I notice that I'm different, a lot different than I remember. For the first time, I realize that something strange had happened to my body. The mental signals that something is strange here had risen to the surface level of my consciousness.
なんだか難しそうな顔をしてるね。
Is something the matter?
思いを巡らせているといった感じの顔だ。
You look like you're in over your head or
一
something.
人で抱え込んでないで、打ち明けてみたらどうだい。
You don't have to keep it to yourself, you know. Why don't you take a load off and tell me what's going on? It's a funny thing to say. I ran up to Yagomi and seized him by the shoulder.
鏡はどこだ？
A mirror. I need a mirror.
鏡？
A mirror.
あいにく僕は持ち合わせていないが。
Sorry, but I haven't got one on me. I released Yagomi and scanned the room. Something, anything that I can use as a mirror. Aha! A small square window leaped into view. The other side of the window was dark. The weak light of the lantern illuminated the surface of the glass. I urgently rushed to the window. A face I have no memory of. An image reflected there was that of a young girl.
誰なんだ？こいつは。
Who is this? I was aghast. Slowly, oh so slowly, I extended a hand towards the face that floated in the glass. Cautiously, taking great care, I paid careful attention to how it moved, from my wrist down to my fingertips, so as not to break it. I held my breath, opened my eyes wide, and softly. I touched the surface of the window pane. Who is this woman? Is this woman me? If that's so, then where has the me I recognize gone? Who am I? Which is the real me? I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand. Something's wrong. This world isn't the world I know. Loneliness and alienation overwhelmed me, and my own existence suddenly seemed thin and fragile. The anxiety became more and more unbearable. Reason deserted me in the face of a fear so powerful it made me want to scream.
助けてくれ。
Help me.
誰か俺を助けて。
Somebody help me. My consciousness ended there. I think Kokoro just pops into that situation. I woke up shrouded in darkness. I forgot what, Kokoro passes out on the floor, right? After seeing the mirror. So, he's going into the passed out on the floor version. An eerie moan was coming from the other side of the window. My intuition told me it was just the sound of the blizzard outside. The strong wind was rattling the window pane. Getting up from the bed, I took a quick glance around the room. My private room at Svea. This, too, was intuition. Intuition is information understood directly without the assistance of the process called interference. Like the instinctive recognition of seeing an apple when one is placed before you, I immediately grasped the situation. I was currently in Svea, specified psychiatric hospital for isolation and ages. Being in this facility was natural, and being in this room was natural, because this room was assigned to me. Leaving the bed, I switched on the lights. The stuff lying around the room was all mine. Nothing had been added and nothing had been removed. No particular abnormality was evident. I quickly observed my body. It was probably hurting all over because you fell from the... I was a man again. The two bulges had thankfully disappeared as well.
いや、不幸にもか。
No, perhaps I mean regrettably. Truth to be told, it was a bit of a shame. This is the real world, the world where I exist as myself. I breathed a sigh of relief. But if this is the real world, then does that mean everything up until now wasn't real? In other words, I'd simply been dreaming about Lynn in the shelter cabin? I didn't even have to think about it. Look, I've transformed into a strange woman. There's just no realistic scientific or any reasonable way that such a thing could happen. Such a thing could only happen within one's imagination, in fantasies, illusions, delusions, or dreams. Or Uchikoshi games. In a space free from the constraints called the laws that rule all things, namely the world of dreams. Well, simply said, this sort of stupid event is only possible in a dream, that's all there is to it. Leaving my room, I went to the dining area. There was a large fridge in the corner of the kitchen. I opened it and took out a PET bottle full of mineral water. In the cupboard beside me, I found my usual glass. Are you not going to mention how your body was apparently hurting all over? Picking it up, I filled it to the brim. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Ah. Gasping, I wiped my mouth. The icy water flowed into my stomach and rehydrated my entire body.
さてと
Now then. I took my wristwatch out of my pocket. 9:12 p.m. Later than I thought. After putting the PET bottle back in the fridge, I went over to the living area. I stood in the middle of the room. With my arms folded, I tried to take a look
誰
around.
もいないみたいだな。
Looks like no one's here. The only audible sound was the sorrowful roar of the blizzard. Loitering in the center of the room, I couldn't help but feel a little forlorn.
妙だ。
Odd.
何かが違う。
Something's wrong. What felt wrong wasn't the fact that I couldn't find so much as a shadow of a person. Huh. I felt different from my usual self. Even if the form was mine, something felt horribly wrong on the inside. It differed from the uneasiness I felt in the dream. It was a feeling of dreary emptiness. I identified the cause right away.
俺は何をしようとしてるんだ。
What am I doing? I lost sight of my purpose. I didn't know what I was trying to accomplish. I don't remember having ever received instructions on what to do from anyone. My will didn't even guide me into doing anything, not a thing. My will had nothing but a null vector. Was nothing but a null vector. A person is said to exist for a purpose as they live their daily life. Studying, working, building a family, loving, hating, enjoying the present moment, doing nothing, a time to work, a time to play, a time... No. Yes. Anything is fine. In any case, one is constantly driven by a necessity from within or from an outside command to do something. Instead, I had nothing. Perfect nothingness. If anything, it was at least performing the essential actions of sustaining my life, such as drinking water and breathing, then thinking like I am now. This too, I suppose, is an act performed to make my body function correctly. With the exception of these primitive and instinctual acts, I was doing nothing. I felt as if something was missing, as if my core had been completely disconnected and stolen away.
そもそも俺はどうしてここにいるんだ。
To begin with, why am I here? As for this facility, Sphia, I know everything. The small rooms arranged in every direction, this living area in the center, the kitchen, the surrounding enclosed by a high wall, the clock tower above the facility. Clock tower. Something struck me. I was climbing a spiral staircase and stood on top of the clock tower, then... You were pushed off? I don't know. I couldn't remember what happened afterward. My mind was trembling in the dark. It was a disaster being inside the chaotic snowstorm that was my messed up thoughts.
ダメだ。
No good.
これ以上考えても無駄だろ
I wonder what wood carbuncle means. It's useless to even think about this. Given up, I decided to drop the matter. It's like the shirt that exposes his entire traps. Even if I thought about it more, there wasn't a guarantee that I'd find what I was looking for. For now, finding a goal became my new objective. Well then, what do I do now? I decided to visit the room on the right first, the one facing the kitchen. There was a boy inside. He was sitting on a chair at first, but then when I came in, he leaped up in a fluster and started talking.
なんだよ、いきなり。
What do you want now?
僕ぐらいしてよね。
You could at least knock. Two things surprised me. First was the fact that someone was inhabiting this room. If memory served me well, then this room was supposed to be vacant. Okay, so this is where Uni got put in. Secondly, so he didn't know Uni from Sphia. He knew Uni from before. Just to make it even more confusing. Secondly, the fact that the person was Uni with the boy who appeared inside my dream. Hairstyle, looks, even the round glasses. He was the splitting image of the one in my dream. Why is a character in my dream here in
う。
reality?
ごめん。誰もいないものだと思ってたから。
Sorry, I thought there was no one here. I've said it already, but I really did believe that this room was vacant. What made me think that? I have no idea. The countless synapses in my brain were scattering a flurry of sparks.
なあ。突然こんなことを聞くのもなんだが。
Hey, I know I'm asking you this all of a sudden,
お
but
前の名前はユニだよな。
Your name is Uni, right?
楠田ユニ。
Kusuda Uni.
うん、そうだけど。
Yeah, and? He frowned perplexedly as he replied.
ねえ、もう起きても大丈夫なの？
I can see you've just woken up, but are you
もう
alright?
少し寝てた方がいいんじゃない？
Wouldn't it be better to lie down for a little longer?
どうして？
Why?
まだ回復してないような気がするから。
You sound like you haven't recovered yet.
回復？
Recovered?
覚えてないの？
You don't remember?
この部屋で突然暴れ出したこと。
You went nuts out of the blue right here.
暴れた？俺が？
Nuts me.
そうだよ。
Yeah.
鏡貸してって言うから渡したらさ、急に大声を上げて泣き出して暴れて。
I handed you a mirror like you asked. You started yelling, burst out crying, and went wild.
それでカーリーっていう人がやってきて、お兄ちゃんに鎮静剤を打ったんだ。
Then a woman named Callie turned up and injected you with some sedatives. Oh. I really don't remember any of that. What the heck did I do? At my wit's end, I began to pace around the room. There was still lots of things I didn't get, but I obtained some information from Uni. Uni just said a woman named Callie. A woman named, this expression showed that the speaker was only recently met the person, or possibly holds a tinge of doubt about a particular person as a result of unverified information from a report, one of the two. In this case, since Uni appeared to have directly witnessed the event he spoke of, the latter possibility can be rejected. Therefore, the relationship between Uni and Utsumi Callie is clearly not that deep. By the way, for me to arrive at this sort of conclusion, I must already know that this woman named Utsumi Callie. Utsumi Callie. Look, just like that. The fact that I stated her surname without much thought shows I have memories concerning her. And I do know her. And I could even vividly recall her appearance. Silver hair, brown skin, gentle eyes, voluptuous chest. As usual, I didn't know why I knew that, nor when, where, and how I met her. I gave a heavy sigh. I felt like a marionette, with my strings being pulled by someone whose true form I didn't know. That someone rules my memories and perhaps even controls my body. The fact that I am walking around the room now, is it really because I wanted to? I don't even have the confidence to declare that. The thoughts of being controlled by someone was by no means pleasant. I began to feel
ごめん
irritated.
なさい。混乱させちゃったかな。
I'm sorry, did I confuse you? Uni said this, spying on my state with uneasiness.
本当はこういうこと言っちゃいけないんだよね。
Saying all that wasn't a good idea, was it?
お兄ちゃん、病気だから。
Since Oni-chan is sick.
突然何を言い出すかと思ったら。
To think I was the one apologizing for saying alarming things out of the blue.
俺が病気だって？どこか悪いように見えるか？
I'm sick. Do I look sick?
うん。思いっきり。
Yeah, you really do.
思いっきりって。
I really do, huh? After inspecting my whole body to confirm my condition.
まあ確かに首とか腰とか背中とか鈍い痛みのようなものがないわけでもないが。
It's not like my neck, waist, and back hurt or anything.
違うよ。体のことを言ってるんじゃないんだ。
Well, you're not talking about your body.
心の中。
You're sick there, in your mind. While drawing the palms of his hands to his chest, Uni continued.
お兄ちゃんは心の中が病気なんだって。カーリーが言ってたんだ。
Kelly says that Oni-chan is sick in his mind.
突然暴れ出したりしたのもそのせいだし。
That's why you suddenly went mad and everything.
僕のことを知っているかのようなふりをして見せたのもだからだって。
You even behaved like you knew me, too. I'm mentally ill. I really wanted to laugh it off, but I couldn't. A part of me couldn't deny this possibility. This mysterious, unexplainable sensation of being controlled by someone. The part of me who'd lost his purpose. My memory lost, the errors in my recollections. Not knowing what I should know, what I shouldn't know. And the strange dream I saw earlier. Considering all that, saying that I'm sick in the head doesn't feel all that far-fetched. Analyzing myself in a calm and objective manner, it's clear that the contents of my head are extremely chaotic. Maybe I have some kind of mental disorder.
でも僕が言うのもなんだけど、そんなに思い詰めない方がいいと思うよ。
It might mean something, nothing coming from me, but don't you think that maybe you shouldn't think about it too much?
サトルはサトルなんだからさ。
Since Satoru was still Satoru. So Uni said Satoru. I asked at once.
ちょっと待ってくれ。
Wait a minute.
お前、俺のこと知ってるのか？
You know me? Uni raised his brows in bewilderment. Turning around, he walked in front of the desk. He picked something up, a disc-shaped object in a case. Yuni spoke while swinging it lightly.
これだよ、これ。
It's this.
テラバイトディスク。
A terabyte disk. Oh.
テラバイトディスク
Terabyte disk. Terabyte disk.
それって最近製品化された大容量記憶媒体のことだよな。
Isn't that the latest product in high-capacity storage mediums? I don't actually know. Does a CDR, DVD-R 1 terabyte actually exist? I doubt it, right?
まあ、小難しく言うとそうなるね。
Well, I guess technically, yeah. In 2004, not even a terabyte hard drive existed. Which is funny, because now we have like 30 terabyte hard drives.
でもそれとこれとどんな関係が？
But what's this have to do with? A complex smile floated on his face as Uni stuffed the disc in his pocket. Folding his arms, he walked around the room for a while. Keeping his mouth shut, I followed his footsteps intently.
とにかく、
Anyway, stopping all of a sudden, Uni began to speak.
僕はここに書かれてることを全部信じることにしたんだ。
I decided to trust everything written in there. I don't get it. I was hoping for an answer to my question, but that was a really far off answer.
だから、ごめんなさい。
So, I'm sorry.
さっきのことは許してください。
I'm sorry about what happened earlier. This time it's an apology out of nowhere. As he bowed, he scratched his head in embarrassment.
どうして謝ったりするんだよ。
Well, why are you
だっ
apologizing?
て、さっきサトルが来た時、僕、冷たくあしらっちゃったでしょ。
Because when you came before, I treated you pretty coldly, right?
だから、
So, it was impossible to comprehend. My thinking process was at a deadlock. All that moved were my eyelids, and I blinked rapidly and uncontrollably.
そっか。
Oh, that's right.
サトルには、心になってる時の記憶はないんだったよね。
Satoru doesn't have memories of the times he becomes Kokoron, right?
有機道サトルと冬川心は別の人格で、
Yukido Satoru and Fuyukawa Kokoro are different personalities.
冬川心
Fuyukawa Kokoro? How many times had this happened now? Again, that name sounded familiar to me. Fuyukawa Kokoro, female, 20 years old. Third-year student of Kyumeikan Women's University, majoring in criminal psychology. This time the question, why do I know the woman named Fuyukawa Kokoro, didn't come to mind. I was already very close to accepting this baffling memory malfunction as something normal. However, the problems hadn't ended there. What's the meaning behind Yukido Satoru and Fuyukawa Kokoro are different personalities? Right, so he saw a report that she was coming to visit, or he mediated that. He mediated the visit somehow. Doesn't have memories of the time he became Kokoro. What was Uni trying to say? Why did he suddenly apologize? How does he know me? These mysteries in that terabyte disk, what on earth do they have to do with each other?
ユニ頼むよ。
Uni, I beg you. Let out frail words. I let out frail words. I only asked if I hung my head
そんな断
dejectedly.
片的な情報じゃ何が何だかさっぱりわからないよ。
I had no clue what's what with so much fragmented
もっと
information.
詳しく事情を。
Please explain the situation to me in detail. But just then it occurred. At that moment I was about to continue. Someone screamed. A voice suddenly echoed across the building. A sharp, chilly shriek interrupted my words. Uni and I looked at each other. Then what I heard next was the sound of something being thrown.
小鳥だ
It's Otori. Eh?
小鳥に何かあったんだよ。
Something's happening to Otori. That was the first name. The first time I heard an unfamiliar name. Otori. There shouldn't be anyone with a name like that in Svea.
何ボケっと突っ立ってんだよ。早く
So, what are you standing around like that for? Hurry up. Uni yelled while flying out of the room. Although I still had many questions to answer, I ran after him for the time being.
やめて来ないで近づかないで
Stop, get away, get away. As we dashed into the living area, a voice could be heard from the room on the right, facing the window. The door flew open, and the one who rushed out was Callie.
犬伏恵子
Oh. Inabushi Keiko. The white blouse and indigo skirt, legs clad in black stockings. Straight black hair that fell to her chest, white skin so pale it was almost transparent. There's no mistake, it's Inabushi Keiko. In my memory, the name Inabushi Keiko was linked to the figure of this girl. However,
ほとり、どうしたんだよ。何があったんだ。
Tori, what's wrong? What happened? Yuni ran over to her, calling her name. Not Keiko, but Otori. Why?
ほとり、待ってよ、ほとり。
Otori, wait, Hotori. But Yuni's voice wasn't reaching her. She ran in a zigzag across the room, shaking her head violently all the while and sending her long black hair into disarray. I just stood there completely dumbfounded. And just then...
ユキド君、彼女捕まえて。
Yukido-kun, catch her. Utsumi suddenly appeared. She come flying out of the same room right after the girl called Otori. The two of them had probably been in a scuffle, seeing as Utsumi's hair was rather disheveled. Utsumi Kali, the person Yuni mentioned earlier. I know her, and she seems to know me too.
ねえ、聞こえないの？早く追いかけてよ。
Hey, are you listening? Quick, go after her.
ユキド君。
Yukido-kun.
ユキド君。
Yukido-kun. The blood-curdling shriek blocked all my thoughts. No matter how much I tried to think, it made no progress at all. The more I worried, the deeper I lost myself in this labyrinth of memories. So at that moment, I gave up on thinking completely. What I should be doing right now is following Utsumi's directions. My actions after reaching this decision were quick. Leaping into the dining area, I started looking for the girl. Not here. Where'd she go? As I looked, I heard someone run down the stairs behind me.
倉庫か。
Storeroom. I nimbly kicked off the floor and made for the basement storeroom. It was pitch black down there. A heavy rumbling sound echoed in the darkness. It was a low mechanical sound that jolted my body to the very core. I didn't know what it really was, but now wasn't the time to worry about
どこ
that.
だ。
Where?
彼女はどこに。
Where did she? Fumbling along the wall in the darkness, I finally hit the light switch. The light poured down from the ceiling. As I looked around, searching for
サト
her,
ル、こっちだよ。こっちこっち。
Satoru, this way, this way. A small whisper from behind me reached my ears. I turned around. Yuni beckoned to me, leaning halfway out from between the shelves. I rushed over to him.
ほら、あそこ。
Look over there. Yuni was pointing behind a pile of cardboard boxes. Two legs ending in a pair of black loafers were partially visible. Yuni was nervous, not knowing what to do. Does he mean never mind. Clasping his hands in front of his chest, he awaited further instructions. I placed a hand on his shoulder and signaling, wait here in silence. Yuni nodded. Leaving him there, I approached the cardboard boxes from the side. Moving with great discretion and caution, slowly. However, the next instant... No. Together with a scream, the pile of cardboard boxes came tumbling down right before my eyes. I quickly dodged them and rolled across the floor. I stood up immediately, my eyes fixed on the back of the fleeing
待て。
girl.
待ってくれ。
Wait, hold up. I gave chase as I raised my voice. Weaving her way left and right through the row of shelves, she continued her escape.
来ないで、来ないで。
Stop it, go away, go away. Her shoulders suddenly bumped into a stack of shelves. The sundries placed upon them tumbled down and scattered asunder on the ground. Jumping over these obstacles, I pursued her in earnest. Finally. At last I cornered her. Facing the corner of the storeroom, she slowly stepped back. Furiously shaking her head, she vehemently resisted me. She was clearly frightened. Like she'd lost her head from some overwhelming terror. I spoke to her for her while maintaining an appropriate distance, refraining from inciting her
大
recklessly.
丈夫だ。とにかく落ち着いてくれ。
It's alright. So come on, please calm down.
俺は何もしない。危害を加えるつもりはないんだ。
I won't do anything. I have no intention of harming you.
嫌だ。行きたくない。行きたくない。行きたくない。
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Don't want to go where? I couldn't understand her, but I obviously couldn't say so.
心配するな。どこにも連れて行ったりしないよ。
Don't worry, I won't take you
俺
anywhere.
はただ。
I...
I 助けに来ただけなんだ。
I just came to help. After I'd said that, her expression showed a visible change.
助けに来た。
You came to help? Deep inside her questioning eyes, a faint light came forth.
そうだよ。 俺は敵でも何でもない。
That's right, I'm not your enemy.
君の味方だ。君を守りたいんだ。
I'm your ally. I want to protect you.
だから
So,
お願い、助けて。
please help me.
私。
All of a sudden, she threw herself against my chest, raising her voice in sorrow. Eh? I lost my bearings at this unexpected development. However, as it is, I had no reason to push her away. I held her still in my arms.
怖いの。怖いの。
I'm scared. I'm
こ
scared.
のままじゃ私、死んじゃうかもしれない。
If it keeps going, I could die.
お願い。
So please,
助けて。助けて。助けて。
help me, help me, help me.
大丈夫だよ。もう大丈夫だ。安心しろ。
It's alright, so calm down.
やだ。
No. Interesting.
私を見捨てないで。
Don't leave me.
置き去りにしないで。
Don't leave.
そんなことするもんか。
I won't.
ずっとそばにいてやるよ。
I'll be with you the whole
俺
time.
がお前を守ってやる。
I'm going to protect you to help you.
だからとにかく落ち着くんだ。
So at any rate, calm down, okay?
怖いよ。怖いよ。
I'm scared, so scared. There's no way I could hold a proper conversation with her now. I silently embraced her as tightly as I could, making sure I didn't hurt her. Suddenly, from over her head, I heard someone approaching. It was Utsumi. She walked towards us slowly, her heavy footsteps resonating against the floor. Her right hand was holding something that gave off a metallic radiance, something that looked like a gun. Utsumi stood behind the girl.
お願い。
Please,
私を助けて。
help me. The girl looked up at me with pleading eyes. Utsumi quickly held the muzzle to the back of her neck and pulled the trigger. Without any hesitation, in silence, the girl lost her strength. Slipping from my grasp, she collapsed on the floor with a thud.
殺したのか。
Did you just kill her?
面白い冗談ね。
Yet another joke.
冗談。
Joke.
いいからこの子を部屋まで運んでちょうだい。
Now then, please carry her to her room. Utsumi said, paying no attention to my shock.
でも
But
この程度の分量じゃ死なないわよ。
it's hardly enough to kill her.
分量って。
Enough. Sumi sighed and threw the gun she held to
鎮
me.
静剤よ。あなたに撃ったのと同じもの。
Tranquilizers, the same ones I hit you with. I stared fixedly at the object she just handed to me. It definitely wasn't capable of firing bullets. An emptied ampule was mounted on the back. I clearly understood that it was an injector shaped like a gun.
じゃあ頼んだわよ。
Well, then I'll leave her to you. Man, she's cruel. Saying nothing more, Utsumi walked away. Yuni and I were left behind. I looked down at the girl lying on the floor. Just to be sure, I put my ear near her mouth. She was breathing, I could hear it. As I knelt beside the girl, I turned my eyes to Yuni. About as naturally as a piece of lifeless rubber, Yuni's face twisted itself into a forced smile. Great
ユキド
mother.
君、さっきはごめんなさいね。
I'm sorry about earlier, Yukido-kun. Utsumi and I were in the dining area. We were sitting at the table facing each other. Yuni was there as well, sitting beside Utsumi. Placed in front of us were cups filled to the brim with warm beverages. Utsumi and I were having coffee, and Yuni was having milk tea.
さっきって犬伏恵子のことか。
Earlier, you mean about Inabushi Keiko? As soon as I asked, Utsumi shook her head and laughed. I couldn't see that as a laughing matter. Utsumi Keiko is now asleep. You and I had carried her back to her room. The three of us had gathered here soon after.
ねえ、聞いてもいい？
Hey, can I ask you something? Yuni entered the talk
どうし
hesitantly.
て悟はあの女の子のことを犬伏恵子って呼ぶの？
Why does Satoru call that girl Inabushi Keiko?
彼女の名前は鈴影ほとりじゃないの？
Isn't her name Suzukaze Hotori-chan? I was puzzled over how to answer. As I searched for the right words, Utsumi
そ
spoke.
の名前ユニ君は誰から聞いたの？
That name, Yunikun, where'd you hear it?
あの女の子
From
あ
her.
の女の子が自分から教えてくれたんだ。
She told me herself.
そう
Is that so?
いいユニ君
Well, you see, Yunikun,
あの子はね乖離性同一性障害っていう病気にかかってるの。
she suffers from an illness called dissociative identity
あ
disorder.
の子の中には鈴影ほとりという名前のもう一人の自分がいるのよ。
Within her exists another different self named Suzukaje
戸
Hotori.
籍上の本名は犬伏恵子なんだけど
And her real name, the one in the family register, is Inibushi Keiko. I see, so that's how it is. There's no longer any doubt as to why that girl had two different names. Come to think of it, I shouldn't have been aware of it from the start. After all, that was the main reason why she was confined in Svea. Shouldn't it be should have instead of shouldn't have? After Yutsumi's explanation, that which was somewhat obvious had become solid fact.
まあ難しいこと言ってもわからないかもしれないわね。
Well, perhaps it's difficult for you to
とに
understand.
かく彼女は心を病んでしまっているのよ。
In any case, she's mentally
こ
ill.
こにいるユキト君と同じように。
Same as Yukido-kun here. Deny it.
おいおい勝手に病人扱いしないでくれよ。
But don't go around declaring other people mentally ill, I said to her. Sure, my thoughts and memories were a mess. But that doesn't mean people have to perceive me like that. To me, my actions and decisions made perfect sense. In other words, while it's true that I may seem strange to others right now, that's just because of what's happening around me. All my thoughts and actions are still based on consistent, sensible logic. There's no contradictions within me. If any were to be found and observed by others, then the cause would surely have come from outside.
じゃあお尋ねしますけど
Then let me ask you. Utsumi sat up straighter before
ユ
continuing.
キド君はどうしてさっき自分の名前が冬川心だなんて言ったんですか？
Yukido-kun, why did you call yourself Fuyukawa Kokoro earlier?
俺はそんなこと言ってない。
I never said that.
言ったじゃない。
Oh, but you didn't you?
ユニ君も聞いたでしょ？
Uni-kun heard it too, right? Yeah,
だけど俺には身に覚えのないことなんだ。
but I don't remember saying anything like that.
記憶がないんだ。
I don't remember.
ほらそのことが全てを表してるじゃない。
Well, I think that says it all.
まあ自覚がないのに受け入れてくれっていうのも無理な話かもしれないけど
Well, anyway, if you really aren't aware of it, then forcing you to accept it immediately is unreasonable.
でもそうなのよ。そうとしか考えられないの。
But then, there would only be one possible
あな
explanation.
たは DID 乖離性同一性障害。
That you have DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder.
どうしてそんな風に断言できるんだよ。
How could you possibly be sure of that?
私は精神科の医師だからよ。
Because I am a psychiatrist.
症状を見ればすぐにわかるわ。
If I catch a glimpse of the symptoms, I can tell straight away. Psychiatrist. Well, I still wasn't convinced. If she really was a psychiatrist, then I couldn't argue back. I reflexively sank into silence.
ねえ、でもなんでサトルはココロンの名前を名乗ったりしたのかな？
Then why did Satoru call himself Kokoron? The answer to that question was as follows.
それがユキド君にとって最も都合が良かったからよ。
Because it was the most convenient for him.
精神の安定を図る上で冬川心という人格になり変わってしまうのが何よりも最適だと彼は判断したんだと思う。
In an attempt to stabilize his mind, he judged that taking on the persona of Fuyukawa Kokoro was the most convenient measure. Itsumi answered Yuni. Shutting my mouth, I listened to her story. It felt like they were talking about someone else's problem. Even when they mentioned Yukido-kun, him, and so forth, it felt like it was nothing to do with me.
ねえユキド君、
Listen, Yukido-kun. Itsumi turned to me and
これ
spoke.
からいくつか質問するから正確に答えてね。
I'll ask you some questions now. Answer honestly, okay?
まずこの名前に聞き覚えはない？
First of all, do any of these names sound familiar?
眉住凛とそれからよもぎ誠治。
They do. Meizumi Lin and Yomogi Seiji. They sound familiar.
ああ、知ってる。知ってるよ。
Yeah, I know them. I know them. I answered, flustered.
リンの方は、俺が前に付き合ってた彼女で、
Lynn, she went out with me some time ago,
よ
and
もぎさんの方は、内海さんの、
Yomogi-san is Utsumi-san's. I started speaking, but I stopped mid-sentence, and then I also paused the encoding to do. Okay, unpaused. Because I don't have any background music on, and because there's no animations occurring here besides the blinking, other than those three circles swirling, you probably saw a jump in those three circles swirling. Anyway. And my voice, of course, because it probably started saying unpausing before it got finished unpausing. So probably like pausing or something like that. How could I have forgotten something so important up until now? Yomogi Seiji and Utsumi Kali were married. After the approval of the dual surname system with the law revision in 2008, Kali had changed her surname back to Utsumi, her maiden name. In other words, the man who had appeared in my dream was none other than Utsumi's husband. However, why did Utsumi decide to ask about him now? Why Meizumi Lin, too? The fact that Utsumi knew about Yogomi Seiji was of no surprise to me, but how did she know about Lin?
そう聞くまでもないことだったわね。
Well, because they died in the plane crash. That's why she knows Lin.
あなたは二人のことを知っている。
Do you know those two?
じゃあ次の質問。
The next question.
あなたは去年起きた赤倉岳の事故のこと覚えてる？
You remember the incident which occurred last year on Mount Akakura?
うん。それも覚えてるよ。
Yes, I remember that too. She was probably referring to Flight HAL-18. At this point, Uni abruptly forced his way into the conversation.
ねえねえ、二人とも何の話してるの？
Hey, what are you two talking about? Utsumi tilted her head in confusion. She gazed back at Uni with a bewildered look.
変ね。
How strange.
え、何が変なの？
What's strange?
ああ、うん、なんでもない。気にしないで。
Oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it.
そんなこと言われても気になるよ。
Even though you tell me not to, I still can't help it.
いいからちょっとだけ黙ってて。
It's fine, just stay quiet for a few minutes.
今はお兄ちゃんと話をしてるから。
I'm talking to Oni-chan now.
でも、
But
お願い。話なら後でちゃんと聞いてあげるから。
please, if you have something to say, I'll hear you out later, okay? Uni pointed sulkily and shut his mouth. Pouted sulkily and shut his mouth. He took a sip of the milk tea instead. I looked back to Utsumi and
で
continued.
結局内海さんは何が言いたいんだ？
And then, what are you trying to say?
わからないの？
Haven't you figured it out yet? If I put it like that, I guess. The HAL-18 incident. The ones who were aboard on the small passenger
そう
plane.
か。
So that's what it was all about.
よもぎ誠治、冬川心、眉住凛。この3人は去年の1月17日、赤倉岳の雪崩に巻き込まれて。
Okay, he remembers now. Okay, Yogomi Seiji, Fuyukawa Kokoro, Meizumi Lin. On the 17th of January last year, the three of them were caught in an avalanche on Mount Agakura.
そう。
Yes, that's right.
だから私は冬川さんや眉住さんのことを知ってるの。
That's why all I know about Fuyukawa-san and Meizumi-san.
それからもちろんユニくんのことも。
And of course about Unikun, too.
ん？
Huh? Uni inclined his head, openly expressing his curiosity at the mention of his name. Yet he was obediently staying quiet. Did Utsumi's warning work? But I couldn't stay quiet. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the words came out
そうだ
automatically.
そうだよ。
Yeah, that's
どう
right.
してユニはこんなところにいるんだ？
Why is Uni here anyway? He was the only survivor of the crash. Since then, 1 year had passed, yet I still have no idea as to why or how he showed up in Sphere.
と、それはね。
Well, you know. Uni tried to answer. But Utsumi stopped him.
待ってよ。話をややこしくしないで。
Wait, don't make this any more complicated than it already is.
最初っから私が全部説明してあげるから。
I'll try to explain everything from the beginning.
最初から？
From the beginning?
僕のことも？
About me too?
そう。全部って言ったら全部よ。
Yes, when I say everything, I mean everything. Okay, exposition dump that isn't really exposition because we already know this. Exposition from a different perspective dump.
私が知っていることは全部。
Everything that I know, at least.
だけどその代わり条件があるわ。
But only under one condition.
条件って？
A condition?
この話を二人に同時にすることはできないの。
I can't have this talk with both of you at the same time.
だから一人ずつ私の部屋に来て。
So could you come into my room one at a time, please?
どうして？
どうしてもよ。
Because I have to withhold select information from each of you.
この条件を飲んでもらえない限り私は何も話せないわ。
Unless you accept this condition, I won't tell you anything. We don't have much of a choice if you put it like that. Uni and I nodded quietly.
じゃあそうね。最初はユキド君から。
Then first up is Yukito-kun. With that proclamation, Utsumi stood up from her seat. She headed toward her room. Uni and I were still trying to regain our composure after the unexpected twist.
ユキド君聞きたくないの？
Yukito-kun, don't you want to hear? Sorry for that skip there. Okay. So, I forgot if I read this line, but I probably did. Yukito-kun, don't you want to hear? As urged, I hastily followed Utsumi. Just before I entered the room, I threw a glance over my shoulder. Uni sitting shyly on a chair in the dining area. At a loss as to what to do, he was staring back at me bewildered.
話を始める前に言っておきたいことがあるの。
There's something I'd like to say before we begin. Utsumi took a seat on the
どう
bed.
ぞ。
Go ahead. She urged me forward to a nearby chair with a wave of her hand. I leaned against the chair in front of the desk.
言っておきたいことって？
So what is it that you wanted to say?
ここはスフィア。
This is Sphia,
隔離と保護のための特定精神医療施設。
the specified psychiatric hospital for isolation and ages.
このことを頭の中にしっかりと刻んでおいて。
Is that clear to you?
そんなこと言われなくても分かってるよ。
That much I know even if you hadn't told me.
いいえ、あなたは何も分かってないわ。
No, you don't understand the first thing about it yet.
ここは精神に異常をきたした人たちが収容される施設なの。
This is a facility that houses people diagnosed with mental disorders.
つまりここにいる人たちはすべて
In short, the people here are
頭がおかしくなっていると？
all nut jobs, you say?
そういうこと。
That's right. Nut jobs they are.
こんなことを言うのは失礼かもしれないけれど、あえてあなたにだけは教えておくわ。
Saying this might be somewhat rude, but I have to say it anyway.
私はね、あなたたち3人に精神障害の疑いがあると思ってるの。
I personally have my doubts as to whether the three of you actually have mental disorders.
犬伏恵子はもちろんのこと、ユニ君にもユキド君にも全員に。
That goes for Inabushi Keiko and Unikun as well. Interesting.
逆にあなたの立場に立てばこうも言える。
Conversely, it would be fair to say the same from your standpoint.
私も含めてここにいる4人全員が精神疾患にかかっているという可能性もあると。
For the four of us here, including me, there is a possibility that we all suffer from mental disorders, and...
ごめん。何が言いたいのかよくわからないんだけど。
You interrupt. Sorry, but I don't really get what you're saying.
要するに誰も信用してはいけないってこと。
What I'm trying to say is don't trust anyone.
犬伏恵子の言葉、ユニ君の言葉、あなたの言葉、
Inabushi Keiko's words, Unikun's words, your words.
それからもしかしたら私自身の言葉も含めて全部
And indeed my own words as well, anyone's.
誰の言葉にも確実性があるとは言い切れないのよ。
You can't assert that there is any truth to anyone's words.
待ってくれ。
Wait a minute.
内海さんが俺たちの言葉を信用できないのはよくわかる。
I can understand you not being able to trust us.
だけど、どうして俺がユニやあなたのことまで疑わなければならないんだ。
But why mustn't I trust Uni's words or even your own words?
第一、自分で自分のことを疑うように忠告するなんて変じゃないか？
Isn't it a bit strange that you tell someone they shouldn't necessarily believe you in the first place?
あくまでも先読みしたまでよ。
All I'm trying to do is tell you to look ahead.
先読み？
To look ahead.
あなたはいずれ私の言葉を疑うようになるわ。
I suspect that you will, sooner or later, come to doubt my
内
words.
海カーリーの精神も異常をきたしているのではないかって必ずそう思うはず。
Utsumi Kelly may have a mental disorder too. That thought might cross your mind.
そうしたらあなたは私の発する一言一言に対して疑問を抱くようになり、余計な詮索を始め、
And if that happens, you'd have to go back and reanalyze every single thing you've heard me say.
そういうのって不毛なことだと思わない？
It'd be quite a nuisance, wouldn't it?
だから私は前もって言っておくことにしたの。
So that's why I've decided to warn you in advance.
私の言っていること、これから告げることが必ずしも真実とは限らないってね。
What I say, what I inform you of now, may not necessarily be restricted to the truth.
わかる？
Do you understand?
まあ今はわからなくてもいいわ。
Well, it's okay, even if you don't understand it
と
now.
にかく繰り返すけど、ここでは誰の言うことも信じてはいけないの。
Anyway, let me repeat myself. Don't trust anything anyone says
み
here.
んながみんな嘘つきだと思ってもらえればそれでいい。
Every last one of us, it'd be better if you thought of us as liars.
嘘つきだから欺瞞に満ちた内容もしばしば口にするでしょう。
And since that is what we are, the things we say may end up being fibs, misconceptions, and even deliberate deception.
けれどそのぐらいのことで取り乱したりしないで。
However, try not to get distracted by that, okay?
当然のことだと思うぐらいのゆとりを持ってほしいの。
It's like the uni is just acting ignorant of stuff he's not, you know. I want you to have the composure to accept it as it is.
あなたには常に冷静でいてほしいのよ。
I want you to always remain
い
calm.
い？これはあなたの精神機能を正常に保つ上でも極めて重要なことなの。
Got that? Remember, this is instrumental to you in keeping your sanity.
受け入れてもらえるかしら。
Will you accept this?
Mm. そうだな。
I see.
文脈の示す内容自体は理解に苦しむが、
No, I find it difficult to completely understand what you are saying.
結論としての忠告だけは素直に受け止めておくことにするよ。
Well, I think I'll take your advice as it stands.
俺はあなたの言うことを信じない。
I won't believe a word you say.
あなたは俺の言うことを信じない。
And you in turn are free to view me as a
お互い
liar.
がお互いを疑い合うことによって初めて信頼関係が構築される。
So if we all doubt one another, we'll end up building a sort of mutual trust.
そういうことだよな。
Is that it? A broad smile, but not it. Her face lit up and she nodded slightly.
それじゃあ始めましょうか。
Now then, shall we begin? Telling the stuff that we know, all of it is not true? Okay. Contrary to the seriousness of the subjects, our talk now began with playful words. It was a long talk. As it stretched on, it grew in complexity as well as length. More and more overlapping subjects were now becoming obvious. As I asked my questions, I constantly reshuffled the answers in my head. As far as I could tell, our discussions boiled down to this. Oh, they're just going to summarize it for me. Okay. Now they're going to just skip it. About me, Yukito Satoru. Utsumi and Yuni seem to think I have did. A fact I'd very much like to deny, but it seems difficult to test or refute it under the circumstances. So, for the time being, as a temporary measure, I decided to go along with the assumption. I have no idea what Inabushi thinks of me right now. However, sooner or later, the news of my condition will become known to her. Utsumi, or maybe Yuni, will surely inform her of it. Hey there, Yukito-kun did, right? We're the same, aren't we? There's no stopping that. So I realized I just had to accept it. Utsumi, Yuni, Unabushi, the three of them will inevitably come to view me as having did. It's not like I particularly care. Compared with all the other problems on my mind, that wasn't really a big deal. Now, amongst the myriad of other things really bothering me was this. And Yuni pointed out some time ago too. Why did Utsumi act so calmly to that me with did, claiming to be Fuyukawa Kokoro? She didn't, though. She's just pretending like she did. She freaked out, we know. She clearly knew that Fuyukawa Kokoro being caught in the avalanche with her husband, Yomogi Seiji, knew about. When I tried to deceive her with the name of the person she knew, as a matter of course, you'd expect her to react with a healthy dose of repulsion or something. And she did. In her own words.
確かに最初は驚いたわ。
Yes, it certainly was a shock at first.
驚いて、あなたが嘘をついていると思って。
Although shock is rather an understatement, I really did think you were lying.
それで思わず平手打ちまでしてしまった。
And then I instinctively slapped you.
私がさっき謝ったのはだからなの。
My apology a little while ago was for that.
誤解してたのよ、結城堂君のことを。
I was mistaken about you, Yukido-kun.
だからごめんなさいって。
Therefore, I'm sorry. People are really slap happy in this game. Although, Ever 17 there was someone slap happy. Actually, in the remake of Ever 17, there were a couple characters that were slap happy. However, she said it doesn't bother her anymore. Why is that so? It also seems that Utsumi knew. Yes, we noticed this when we played as Kokoro. It's kind of weird. It also seems that Utsumi knew I'd gone out with Lin thanks to a mysterious document. The matter of which I shall touch upon later. But in any case, Utsumi trusted that document with 100% certainty. This is how she
結
put
城
it.
堂君は心の奥深いところでまだ黛さんのことを強く強く思っているのよ。
Yukido-kun, deep within your heart, you still feel strongly for Mayuzumi-san.
彼女はもうこの世界には存在しない。
But she has long since left this
去
world.
年の1月17日に亡くなってしまった。
She died on the 17th of January last year.
その現実を受け入れるのが嫌だから、認めたくないから。
It's painful to accept such a reality, so you try not to admit it.
だから結城堂君は黛さんの存在する世界を、歴史を少なくとも自分の中でだけは成立させようと考えたんだと思う。
But inside yourself, the thought of bringing about a world in which Mayuzumi-san is still alive, even if it is just within you, lives on.
けれどそれをするためには黛さん自身の人格を喪失しても意味がない。
However, creating an image of her in your mind just won't do it for you.
なぜならあなたの目的は空想としての彼女を生み出すことではなかったから。
Thus, your purpose isn't to conjure up such an image,
黛さんが生存しているといういわば歴史的に見れば偽りの現実を
but a false reality, so to speak, where it's a fact that Mayuzumi-san is
あな
alive.
たはできる限り合理的に整合性のあるものとして自身の内部に再現したいと考えたのよ。
So trying to be as logical and consistent as you could, you desperately tried to produce this world within your mind.
自分自身を騙すために
To cheat
説
yourself,
得力を持たせるために
to make it believable.
そこで黛さんでもなく結城堂君でもない第三者の人格が求められることになった。
You sought out and found a third personality, not Mayuzumi-san, nor yourself.
その場合歴史を変えるのに最も適した人物とは誰か。
So who would you choose? Someone who could perhaps be able to change this sad reality.
一番簡単なのは雪崩に巻き込まれた残り2名のうちのいずれかになり変わることだった。
It would be easiest for you to take on the role of one of the other survivors who was caught in the avalanche. It didn't matter who.
そこで選ばれたのが
And the one you chose was Fuyukawa Kokoro, it seems. But that was just Utsumi's explanation. I had a different opinion. Lynn and I parted ways over 18 months ago. Wait, you said that, but it would have been 18 months plus another year by now? It may be a bit cold to say this, but by the time of that accident... Oh, maybe it is 6 months. Okay, I simply didn't love her as much as I did before. Interesting. Of course, losing her was sad. Sad, but certainly not to the point where it would cause me to develop a personality disorder. Consequently, I couldn't accept Utsumi's claim. I agree with certain parts of it, but at any rate, that's how it was. That was just Utsumi's personal interpretation anyway, one which I quickly decided to disregard. Her strange advice in the introduction, don't trust anyone's words, had helped me a lot with this matter. Next, about my amnesia. I decided to be frank and told Utsumi the following. I have no recollection of any events, except for a select few from the time of my birth up until now. Strictly speaking, my memories began the moment I began having the dreams about that mountain cabin. I can hardly remember anything that happened before that, but somehow there were other things that I hadn't forgotten. Hereafter I will list the most important memories. First was my own name. My name is Yukito Satoru. I'm 21 years old. Today is Wednesday, January 11th, 2012 AD. I am in Sphia, the specified psychiatric hospital for isolation in Aegis. The layout of Sphia is also roughly inscribed in my mind. I am more or less familiar with my current surroundings. The people here in Sphia are Inabushi Keiko, Utsumi Kali, and me. According to my memory, only the three of us should be here. Uni must have basically a special case. Inabushi Kaiko has did. After the accident in Awazumi, she was institutionalized here. I know the full story of the tragedy that occurred in the hospital. I'll leave Uni and Utsumi for later. Next up, we have Mount Agakura, the crash of HAL-18 last year, and the 3 survivors who were later buried in the avalanche. These facts are clearly etched into my memory. The people in the shelter, Yomogi Seiji, Fuyukawa Kokoro, Meizumi Lin, and Usada and Kusuda Uni. Yomogi is Utsumi's husband and a mountaineer. Kokoro is a third-year student at Kyumeikon Women's University. Meizumi Lin, it would take forever to try and list the things I remember about her. The fact that we were going out, several episodes in our relationship, some noteworthy conversations, and so on. Sometimes I feel like I remember more about Lin than I do about myself. I know all there is to know about her. Lin was a very important person to me, much more so than just a romantic liaison. So that should be about everything that I can remember. Now then, this time let's line up the things I forgot or perhaps didn't know to begin with. First of all, as I said before, prior to the dream of the mountain cabin, I remember nothing. Where I was born, what childhood was like, how I lived until now. Well, we know that eventually he recalls that he was pushed off the clock tower. So, from Kokoro's route, we figure out he recalls that. I don't even remember my parents. How about something more recent? How long have I been in Sphia? Why am I here? Why, what for? What's my goal here? The only possibilities that sprung to my mind is that I was a patient here or a staff member. When I asked Utsumi
あ
about
な
this,
たはここのスタッフだったはずよ。
you must have been a member of staff. After all, you have the ID card, right?
でも今は確信が持てなくなってしまったわ。
But I'm not sure anymore.
もしかしたらあなたは最初からここの患者だったのかもしれない。
Perhaps you've been a patient here from the start. Just like that, she said something that only added to my unnecessary confusion. Let's move on. I know a lot about Inabushi Keiko as well. On the other hand, Utsumi and Uni are still a mystery to me. Why is Utsumi in Sphia? The way she put it
私は
was,
精神科の医師としてここで働いてるのよ。
I'm working here as a psychiatrist. It seems like she has like a dual thing where it's like she has some sort of disorder, but then she was also, it wasn't really that bad, right? So she didn't really need to get sent to Sphia for it. But she also happened to be a psychiatrist. So they kind of had this double duty where like, well, maybe we can kind of escalate her to Sphia so that we can send a psychiatrist to Sphia where we need one. But those words now lack credibility. Since she herself instructed me to not trust anyone, I decided to do just that regarding this matter. I can't disregard the possibility of Utsumi being a patient here. What about Uni? Why is he here? Our conversation on the matter went along these lines.
わからないわ。突然やってきたのよ。
I don't know, he just suddenly showed up.
突然やってきた
According to the newspaper, though, he was like, he wouldn't speak or anything. Suddenly showed up.
夕方の5時過ぎだったかしら。
I think it was sometime around 5 in the evening
気がついたらユニくんはここにいたの。
when I noticed that Unikun was here.
そんなバカな
That's ridiculous.
この施設は部外者が簡単に出入りできるような構造にはなってないんだぞ
This facility isn't a place that someone from the outside could simply stroll in and out of, right?
知ってるわよ。
I know that just as well as you,
でもしょうがないじゃない。
but what else can I say?
いたんだもの。
He was just there. That's totally absurd. Utsumi seemed to think so as well.
私だって最初は怪げに思ったわ。
Of course, I thought it was suspicious at first too.
何かよからぬことを企んでるんじゃないかと思って警戒したの。
I kept my guard up just in case he was plotting something.
だってそうでしょ。
It's only natural, right?
彼は墜落事故の唯一の生存者なのよ。
He's the only survivor of the plane crash.
その彼が遺族である私の前に何の前触れもなく姿を現した。
Who then suddenly shows up, just like that, in front of me? Me, a family member of one of the victims.
仮にユニ君が患者の一人として私の知らないうちにこのスフィアに搬送されてきたのだとしても、
For example, what if Unikun had been transported to Sphia as a patient without me knowing?
おかしいでしょ。常識的に考えれば変よね。
Wouldn't that be strange? Wouldn't you normally think it's weird? After Utsumi voiced all the doubts I myself had been having, she continued.
だけどね、ある文書が全てを解決してくれたの。
But you know what? How one document solved everything.
出所や筆者が不明という点においては怪文書の部類に属するかもしれない。
Since both the source and the author are unknown, I guess it belongs to a class of documents you couldn't use as a reference for a term paper.
何なんだよその怪文書って。
But what is that document?
1枚のテラバイトディスクに保存されていた膨大な量のテキストファイル。
It's basically a collection of a huge amount of text files stored on a terabyte disk.
テラバイトディスク
A terabyte of text? Imagine how long it would take to read that. A terabyte disk. That's a lot of copies of Moby Dick.
それってユニが持ってた。
You mean the one Uni was carrying? Yes.
どんなことが書かれてたんだ。
What kind of things were in there?
楠田ユニは存在すべくして存在する。
Fusada Uni exists to exist.
え
Eh.
もちろんそれだけじゃないわよ。
Of course, not only that. A terabyte of text is just that.
結城堂君と眉住さんがかつて恋人同士の関係にあったこと。
The fact that Yukido-kun and Mayuzumi-san were once lovers.
結城堂君が乖離性同一性障害に陥っていること。
The fact that Yukido-kun has dissociative identity disorder. Which he doesn't. That makes it not a
あ
fact.
とは極めて説得力のある内容が延々と何ギガバイトにもわたって書かれていたとしか答えようがないわ。
As for the rest of it, I can call it nothing short of prophecy spanning many gigabytes.
私だけもしくはユニ君だけしか知り得ないようなことが克明に詳細にわたって綴られていたの。
Things that only I or only Uni could possibly know were there, spelled out in black and white.
場合によってはご丁寧に動画データまでもが添付されていることもあって。
Here and there, whoever made this was even courteous enough to attach a video pertaining to the content of the text. Oh, that's why it's a terabyte. Okay, now that makes sense.
だから私は信じることにしたのよ。
So I came to believe that the things mentioned in there were true.
信じざるを得なかったと言った方が的確かもしれないわね。
I couldn't help but believe them. That would be a more accurate way to put it. So it's videos of things that are going to happen in the future.
誰が書いたものかもわからないのに。
Despite not knowing who wrote it or why,
そんなのは些細なことよ。
that's a triviality.
あなたも読めばきっと納得すると思うわ。
If you read it too, I think you'll agree. In the end, the matter of Uni had been left unsettled. In the end, the matter of Uni had been left unsettled. Kurusada Uni exists to exist. I can't understand anything until I see the contents of that disc. I'll try borrowing it from Uni later. That said, I'll temporarily put the investigation into the mystery of Uni on hold. Now then, let's continue. The continuation of the list of things forgotten by me. I tried to think about the people on Mount Agakura. There were so many things related to Kokoro and Yomogi that I didn't know, which was reasonable. I could only remember them as victims caught in the avalanche along with Lin. Well, come to think of it, I can't really say that I remember anything about Lin either. I remembered a lot of when we were dating, but I had forgotten something quite important. Namely, the beginning and the end. In other words, how and why we started dating and why we broke up. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember. I just remembered all the important plot things. All the important details I forgot. Just selectively erase those ones. Had we really gone out? I doubt even that. However, I can't remember that I can't remember. I decided it would be better to give up on that line of thought. That was roughly all the content of my memories. Incomprehensible indeed. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason as to what I remembered and what I had forgotten. The more I thought about how irrational it was, the more worried I became. Utsumi had this to say.
確かに一般的な記憶障害とは明らかに異なるわね。
Your condition certainly differs from typical amnesia.
私もあなたのような症例は見たことがないからよくわからないけど、
And it's nothing I've ever seen before, so I really can't tell.
もしかしたら
But perhaps,
今のあなたという存在は結城堂君の中に生まれた最も新しい別の人格なのかもしれない。
your existence right now may be the result of a brand new personality born within your body.
そう考えてみれば過去の記憶がないことについても説明できるでしょ。
If you think about it that way, it would explain why you have no memories of the past.
断片的に覚えている部分があるのは、それが結城堂君本人の記憶と直接リンクしているからなんじゃないかしら。
The fragmentary memories popping up here and there may be directly linked to the original Yukito-kun.
あなたがこのスフィアで目覚めたのは確か今から1時間半ぐらい前だったわよね。
If I'm not mistaken, you woke up here in Sphia about an hour and a half ago, right?
だとしたら結城堂君、
If that's so, Yukito-kun,
今のあなたは90分前に初めてこの世界に産声を上げた特殊な存在なのかもしれないわ。
the current you, the one I'm talking to, is a special existence, one that gave its first birth cry a mere 90 minutes ago.
もちろん可能性の一つとしてだけれど、
Of course, it was just a possibility, but my personality was born 90 minutes ago? Wouldn't that mean that I didn't exist before? That's nonsense, it couldn't be. I was about to lose my temper and started thinking about how I would prove her wrong, even if it cost me my life. But in my regret and dismay, I could find no words to object to her statement with. The mere fact that my being here would surely imply the need for my identity to have a consistent past and history. But nevertheless, I just can't accept her reasoning. I most certainly have a past and a history. I might have had no basis for it right then, but I certainly felt a strong need to persuade myself of this. And so our talk ended. Utsumi also summed up the events that happened today for me. Up until this evening, it's been just another calm, ordinary day, everything proceeding as usual. Then, around 4 p.m., during the raging blizzard, a bolt of lightning struck Svia's clock tower. Of course, since Utsumi didn't go outside, she couldn't say that she'd witnessed the scene firsthand. But she experienced the sound of the lightning hitting the tower, and the shock that followed, and the flash from the other side of the window. Incidentally, at the same time, Utsumi had also witnessed a far more shocking scene. As the lightning bolt struck, Utsumi was in the living area, looking outside the window. In the darkness, a pale flash illuminated the surroundings. At that moment, at that exact
あなた
instant,
が落ちてきたの、
you fell
空から。
from the sky. I fell from the clock tower alongside that bolt of lightning. The living area's window looked out onto the roofless terrace. This terrace was covered with a layer of snow about a meter thick. That snow had acted as a cushion aiding my escape from death. Utsumi dug me out of the snow and carried me to the bedroom I woke up in. At that time, needless to say, I was unconscious. Did you see him before? Around 5 p.m. Though it was mentioned before, Utsumi found Uni inside Sphia. The discovery took place in one of the rooms supposedly vacant till then. What I don't understand is, like, why Utsumi is so unsure if Satori was a staff member or not. It's like she just showed up in Sphia also. The discovery took place in one of the rooms supposedly vacant till then. She'd heard an odd noise and opened the door to find a lone boy crouching on the floor. Utsumi was bewildered. Why is Kusudi Uni here? She was puzzled. Feeling something akin to fear, she didn't try to talk to him. Around 8 p.m., Utsumi visited my room to check up on me. Utsumi said I introduced myself as Fuyukawa Kokoro then. That combined with Uni's sudden and unexplained appearance caused her to suddenly lash out. She slapped me, yelled, "Stop messing around," and left the room. Afterward, according to Uni, I looked in a mirror and went berserk. Utsumi, who heard the scream, rushed in and injected me with a sedative. Just like Inabushi a short while ago, I fell asleep in an instant. Utsumi and Uni then read through the contents of the mysterious terabyte disk. Around 9 p.m., I opened my eyes as me, an existence with the consciousness of Yukito Satoru. Since I remembered everything from that point on, there was no need for her to continue. Thus, Utsumi's long story ended. As I finished listening to it, I felt very refreshed. Of course, there was still a mountain of things I didn't understand. But the things I didn't understand and the things I did understand, for me being able to make that distinction felt like a huge leap forward.
これで私の知っていることは全て話したわ。
With this, I have told you everything I know.
さあ、次はユニくんの番ね。
Now then, next is Unikun's
ユ
turn.
ニくんを呼んできてくれる？
Would you go call him for me? Utsumi stood up and walked up to the door. She put her hand on the doorknob. I too stood up from my chair, but I stopped just before leaving the room. There was still something bothering me. Why did I... No one cares about the did. Why did I climb the clock tower?
最後に一つだけ聞いてもいいか？
Can I ask you one last thing?
どうぞ。
Of course.
俺はどうして時計台なんかに登ったりしたのかな？
Why did I even go up the clock tower in the first place?
そのことも覚えてないの？
You don't remember that either?
ああ、
That's right.
じゃあなぜ時計台から落ちてしまったのかも。
Then the reason why you fell from the clock
わ
tower?
からない。
I don't know.
そう。
Ah.
内海さん、何か知ってるのか？
Utsumi-san, do you know something?
いいえ、
No.
あなたを最後に見かけたのは確か3時半を回った頃だったかしら。
The last time I saw you, I recall correctly, was around 3:30 p.m.
階段を降りていく後ろ姿がリビングの方から。
I just saw you from behind, going down the stairs from the living area.
階段を降りた？
Going down the stairs.
何か思い出した？
Have you remembered something?
いや、何も。
No, nothing. I shook my head, my mouth slackened into a self-derisive grin.
さあ、これでもう十分でしょ。
Will that be all for now?
ユニ君を呼んできてちょうだい。
Please call Unicun for me.
助かったよ。
You've been a big
い
help.
ろいろ教えてくれてありがとう。
Thank you for telling me all those things. Expressing my gratitude from the bottom of my heart, I left the room.
あ、そうだ。
Ah, right. Just as I stepped into the living area, I heard a voice call out to me again. I turned around to see Utsumi on the other side of the open door where I had left last seen
ユキ
her.
ド君、悪いんだけど
Yukido-kun, sorry to ask you, but
ダイニングテーブルにあるコーヒーカップ片付けておいてもらえる？
could you please put away those cups on the table for me? Her gentle smile calmed my mind immediately. There truly is a soothing force that transcends all reason within the smile of a beautiful woman.
あ、わかったよ。
Yeah, I got it. I returned her
あり
smile.
がとう。
Thanks. Her smile broadened even further. An ordinary exchange of ordinary words and courtesies. But right now, even ordinary words like these feel so incredibly precious to me. I headed toward the kitchen on steps as light as a feather.
ずいぶん長かったね。
Ah, you took forever. Uni sighed, sounding tired. Resting his chin in his hands, he looked at me with drowsy eyes from across the table.
何話してたの？
What'd you talk about?
まあ、いろいろとな。
Well, listen,
内海
Matt.
さん、部屋で待ってるみたいだぞ。
Itsumi-san's waiting for you in there.
お前のことを呼んでこいって。
She told me to send you in.
わかった。
Gotcha. With that lackadaisical answer, Uni left his seat. Swaying on his feet like a drunk, he headed towards Utsumi's room. After watching him
さて
go,
と、片付けますか。
well then, let's get this cleaned up. I lifted the 3 cups left on the table with three of my fingers. Cups in hand, I walked towards the sink. The hold of my 3 fingers had on the handles was rather precarious. And just as I tried to get a better grip, the cup slipped right out of my hands.
あ、 ああ、やっちまった。
Oh, damn it. I forgot, when you're Kokoro, do you find like you've just dropped the cups or something? I forget, okay. I grumbled as I gathered up the broken pieces. 1, 2, 3. I picked them up without even thinking about it. The moment I reached out for the next broken piece, I finally noticed it. I jumped back in confusion, feeling like I touched something I wasn't supposed to. A few fragments slipped from my hands, fluttering and dancing in the air like scraps of paper. No, that's not it. Those really are scraps of paper. Tiny characters were squeezed onto each scrap. I could tell at a glance that it was a newspaper. I should have recognized the newspaper scraps from what they were, but for some reason I had mistaken them for something else. To put it precisely, I was convinced they were the pieces of the broken cups. Because up until just now, they really had been cups in my hand. And yet, just like magic, they suddenly transformed into a newspaper. Still reeling from the shock, I almost forgot to breathe altogether.
気は済んだか？
You okay now? The man standing beside me spoke. It was Yomogi, the man in that dream. Why is he here? The answer's obvious. I guess my consciousness had once again been pulled into the dream world.
まったく世話が焼けるよな。
Damn, what a pain.
どうしてこんなことを
Why'd you do that?
って言っても無駄か。
Never mind, it's pointless to even ask.
おそらく理性ではどうにもならない発作なんだろうね。
You probably had another fit, that's all.
やれやれだ。
Sheesh. With those words, Yomogi knelt down and began collecting up the newspaper scraps. Someone else decided to silently help him. It was Uni. Looking across the room, I could see Lynn was there too. She was chewing on something with her chin planted on the table. Was it gum? She seemed pretty listless and had an apathetic look on her face. I was in the mountain cabin. Everything in the room was almost identical to the dream I'd seen earlier. If I had to name a single difference, it'd undoubtedly be the scraps of paper that were scattered all over the floor.
夢か。
This dream again. Yagomi turned around, still kneeling on the floor and grumbling as he picked up the scraps. Huh?
いや、なんでもない。気にしないでくれ。
No, nothing, don't worry. It would be meaningless to say anything to the characters in a dream. Waving my hands in a gesture of please keep it up, I headed over to the cabin window. There was a blizzard outside. I could tell due to the countless snowflakes striking the glass and the gloomy echoes that filled the room. I gazed into the darkness of the storm. Besides the swirling white, there was nothing out there to be seen. I returned my eyes to the surface of the glass. Though I'd already expected this, I couldn't help but despair whenever I saw my reflection. Just as I'd feared, the face of that unknown woman still reflected in the surface of the glass.
たく、誰なんだよ、こいつは。
Damn it, who is this woman anyway? Those words left my mouth unconsciously. It's you, another self whispered to me. I know that already, but just to be sure I had to confirm it with my own eyes. I tried smiling, pursing my lips, bringing a hand to my cheek. But no matter what I did, the woman reflected in the glass matched my movements perfectly. There was bilateral symmetry, and no time difference. She reproduced everything I did without discrepancy, exactly the same way. I turned away from the window. Surprise attack. She immediately turned around as well, staring me with her eyes full of suspicion. Still standing there by the window, I looked down at my body. A ribbon on my chest, a light pink shirt, and high laced-up boots. I opened my hands and placed them together. My reaction speed was no different than it was in reality. I swung my arms. I did a stretch. I jumped. I even did a high knee dash. When I tried it again without using my hands, and my movements became pretty awkward. Okay, let's try some push-ups now. 1, 2, 3. Before I reached double digits, my head collapsed to the wooden floor in exhaustion. I had an overwhelming lack of physical strength. The physical endurance of my body was far different from what I'd expected. A divergence between the mental and physical self. Though the body was still made of normal human flesh, it felt like it was composed of something akin to jelly. I got up unsteadily and wiped the dust off from my clothes. Thankfully, there was no hindrance to everyday movement. The real problem was the potential physical output and stamina. No, it wasn't just that. In the long run, there are two differences I was unlikely to adapt to easily. First, the mammary organs growing on my chest. They weren't all that big, but that didn't change the fact that they were indefinitely depressingly there. The idea that something that shouldn't be there actually was, just as though it were natural, made me feel uncomfortable. As far as I'm concerned, they were undesired and nothing but an obstacle. And moreover, there were two of them. Don't saddle me with these things was one of the complaints I wanted to make. On top of that, I really wanted to do something about that feeling of oppression on my chest. I reached my arm into my clothes, searching along my back, and undid the hook there. Phew. It became a little easier to breathe. Secondly, my lower half felt cold. It was drafty, and the skirt made me feel uneasy. Do the creatures known as women really walk around wearing something that renders them so defenseless? It's somehow hard to believe. Men wear kilts. So no, this is not weird. I don't know. Yeah, like, This wouldn't weird you out, really, if you were wearing a skirt. That's something men would have problems with. But they don't just because of tradition. I tried pushing the skirt up between my thighs. It didn't fit there very well. I tried pulling it up around my rear, but as I feared, it didn't help at all. And then something hit me. Something that shouldn't be there actually was. I was well aware of that terrible situation. But moreover, it was also the case that something that should have been there now isn't. Oh yeah, I forgot the most important thing. Feeling a little dismayed, I tried searching around for it.
マジ
No way. And everybody's like standing around watching you grope yourself.
マジですか
Are you serious? It wasn't there. The thing that should have been there wasn't. My most precious treasure had been snatched away. I was driven to distraction over the loss of that important symbol.
ないないない
It's not there, it's not there, it's not there.
どこだどこだどこに行っちまったんだ
Where did it go? I groped around my lower body in desperation, searching for what was lost. Searching for my irreplaceable pal. Confusion and bewilderment can't come close to describing the way I felt. This was a state of emergency, an emergency equal to the destruction of the world. But no matter where and how much I searched, I couldn't find it. There's a couple layers to this. Obviously, it couldn't do something like crawl out from under the bed and say good evening. This is the body of a stranger, a woman's body. Furthermore, it's happening in a dream. I know that, but I couldn't help muttering it.
ない
It's not there. Both hands still between my legs, I held up to the heavens. Like the layers are like, yes, he doesn't have a penis anymore, but that he didn't find it's hard to find the, like, analogous organ.
なんでなんでなんでないんだ
Why isn't it there? Kind of a CLITORIUS, or however you pronounce it, joke. I probably didn't spell it right. I felt a pair of eyes bore into me as I whirled around. 3 figures stood in front of the table. Their mouths hung wide open as they stared straight at me. The cigarette dropped from Yomogi's lips. Yuri's glasses were slipping down. Around Lin's mouth were the remnants of a popped bubblegum bubble. I looked down. Something a woman shouldn't expose in public was in plain sight. 2 hands were spread across an unfortunate place. Wait, so he had the, like, pants, like, down? I slowly adjusted the position of my hands and stood up, dusting off my skirt as I did.
いやまああれですよ
No, really,
あれ
it's that...
ほら
See?
かゆかったかなみたいな
It was itchy, you know. Sort of.
かゆい
Itchy.
あ窓の外に雪んこが
Look, there's a snow fairy outside the window. I pointed behind them. They all took the bait and turned around. Now, immediately ran away, seeking refuge in the basement. But I can't help but be amazed that the oldest trick in the book actually worked. From the rectangular opening above the ladder, I could hear the sound of whispering voices. I could just make out what they were saying.
ベッドかどこかに縛り付けといた方がいいわよ。
We better tie her to the bed or
こ
something.
のままじゃ何されるか分かったものじゃないもの。
As it is, who knows what she'll do.
いくらなんでもそれはまずいだろう。
No, that's got going too far.
相手は女の子だぞ。
After all, she's a woman, you
ほ
know.
っとけばいいんじゃないの？
Why don't we just leave her alone?
別に危害を加えるわけでもないんだし。
She can't do any real harm. While listening attentively, I started to think, this is so stupid. What the hell am I doing? This is a dream, right? It's not real. So why did I get embarrassed and hide down here? While it was true that I had lost my beloved symbol, it was nothing to mourn over. I decided to accept this phenomenon in a manly fashion. But then, what if this world wasn't a dream? Both Sophia and this cabin, the possibility that both could be real is unimaginable, right?
まさかな。
That's not possible. I shook my head and quietly tossed the idea aside. After climbing the ladder, I stealthily peeked up at the first floor.
そうだな。
You're right.
ひとまず当分の間は何事もなかったかのように普通に接することにしよ
For now, let's just act like nothing ever happened.
う。とにかく彼女を刺激しないように。
Anyway, let's try not to provoke her, okay? Uni was the first one to notice me after I poked my head out. With the tip of one finger, Uni prodded to Yogomi, who then turned to face me.
ああ、どこに行ってたんだい？
Oh, hey, where'd you run off
突
to?
然姿を消しちまったもんだから探したよ。
You vanished all of a sudden, and we were looking for you. The tone of voice was so forced. It's a bit hard to hide in this place. The basement storeroom comprised the only other floor.
そんなところに隠れてないで。ほら、上がってこいよ。
Don't just hide down there, come on
みん
up.
な君のことを待ってたんだぞ。
Yeah, we're all waiting for you, you know. Yogomi spread his arms wide, trying to look welcoming. Uni looked looking away, his lips pursed in a sour expression. Lynn just blew another bubble with her gum as she fiddled with a piece of firewood. It sure didn't look like either of them had been waiting. Well, whatever. I climbed back up and sat down on one of the log chairs beside the table. Uniform. The cold atmosphere permeated the room. Everyone was trying to stay calm and composed. So was I. We were playing dumb, pretending that nothing had happened just now. The newly gathered newspaper scraps were piled up on the table. From the looks of things, it had been torn up pretty haphazardly and definitely by hand. There was no regularity in the size of the scraps, and the soft fiber of the paper was exposed along the edges. What does it mean? Are they trying to make confetti out of it?
ユニ、下にガムテープがあっただろ
Uni, there's some tape down below,
う。持
right?
ってきてくれないか。
Would you mind bringing it up here?
わかった。
Sure, got it. Uni disappeared down the ladder.
さてと、
Now then,
君にも手伝ってもらおうかな。
any chance you could help out too? Yogomi sat in front of me as he spoke.
何を？
With what?
ジグソーパズルだよ。
With this jigsaw puzzle.
ジグソーパズル？
Jigsaw puzzle?
ここに積まれた新聞紙を元通りに復元するんだ。
We're going to put this newspaper back together.
なぜ？
Why?
君がこの新聞紙を破いた理由。それが知りたいからだ。
I want to know why you destroyed it.
俺が破いた？
I destroyed it?
そうだよ。
Yeah.
問い返すところを見ると、覚えていないようだね。
Since you're asking again, I guess you don't remember?
ああ、答える必要はない。
Yeah, no need to answer that.
こんな問答を繰り返しても無意味だからね。
No use in saying the same things over and over again.
とにかく、君はここに書かれている記事を見るなり、前後不覚に陥ってしまった。
At any rate, right after you saw what was written in that article, you lost your mind.
叫んで、暴れて、こいつをビリビリに引きちぎって、
You started yelling and raging around, and then you ripped the whole thing to shreds.
この山はそうして生まれたんだ。
And that's how this nice little mountain of paper was born.
もちろん、納得してくれなんて言わない。
Of course, I won't tell you to just accept what I'm
疑っ
saying.
てもらっても構わない。
It doesn't matter even if you
ただ
don't.
僕は気になってるんだ。
But still, I'm worried.
ここにはとても大事な何かが書かれているような気がする。
I get the impression that something very important is written here.
君の精神を極限状態へと追い詰めるほどの何かが。
Something big enough to drive your mind to breaking point.
どうかな？手伝ってもらえないだろうか。
How about it? Won't you lend a hand? There's no reason to refuse. Besides, like Yomogi, I wanted to know why the newspaper was torn
し
up.
しょうがねえな。
No choice then.
どっから手つけりゃいいんだ？
Where do you want me to start? Shigomi nodded with a small smile. He spread out the mountain of paper. My hand rubbing might have made it into the microphone.
えっと、これがこうなって、こうだから。
This here goes here.
違う。そこはこっちでしょ。
That's wrong. That's wrong. That should obviously go here.
活字が逆向いてんじゃないのよ。
The writing is backward now.
そっか。
Ah, I see.
よもぎ、そこも違う。
Yomogi, that's wrong too.
ちゃんとページ番号振ってあんでしょうが、ここに。
Page numbers are clearly marked right there. Are you blind?
え？ああ、本当だ。
Oh, that's true.
おいこら、そこの女。
Hey, you, the girl.
あんたさっきっから何やってんのよ。
What have you been doing this whole time? Me?
女って言ったら、私の他にはあんたしかいないじゃない。
I said girl. There aren't any girls here besides you and me.
こら、無視すんなっつの。
Hey, don't you dare ignore me.
何やってんのって聞いてんでしょ。
I asked you what you're doing.
何って新聞を復元してるんだけど。
Well, I just putting the newspaper back together.
何のために？
Why are you doing
記事
that?
を読めるようにするために。
To read the article, of course.
で、あんたが今手に持ってる切れ端は？
So what about the piece you're holding now?
ポコポコちゃんって書いてあるな。
It says Poco Poco-chan here.
4コマじゃん。そんなもん再生してどうすんのよ。
That's a comic strip. What good would putting that back together have?
たくあんたたち、パズルの才能ゼロでしょ。
Really, you guys have zero talent at solving puzzles, don't you?
そういうリンは？
What about you, Lynn?
さっきから手が動いてないみたいだけど。
Seeing as you haven't lifted a finger this whole time.
私はいいの。現場監督なんだから。
I'm fine. I'm the supervisor.
なんだよそれ。
What the heck?
あ？文句あんの？
You have a complaint?
いえ、ないです。
No, of course not. However, the supervisor soon joined uni, and our work advanced quickly. Or so I thought. But,
ねえ、冬川さん、そこの切れ端取ってくれないかな。
Fuyukawa-san, can you hand me that piece? At that unexpected utterance, my hands froze. Fuyukawa. I slowly raised my face, although as if I were pulling it up.
冬川さん、それだよ。君の手の下にある切れ端。
Fuyukawa-san, that piece over there under your hand. Yagami was looking straight at me. Just to be sure, I turned around to look. There was no one behind me. That means that Yagami was calling me Fuyukawa.
冬川って、
By Fuyukawa.
冬川心のことか。
You mean Fuyukawa Kokoro, right? I turned around and asked. The scrap of paper fell from Yomogi's hand. Yuni and Lin both stopped what they were doing simultaneously. Only the flame of the lantern continued its flickering. Picking up the piece Yomogi had asked for and joining it with the nearly completed page, I mused
な
aloud.
るほど。冬川心か。
I see, Fuyukawa Kokoro.
それが俺のこの肉体の所有者の名前なんだな。
That's the owner of this body's name? Yomogi answered with a firm nod. At that moment, I finally understood what had happened to my body. Yomogi, Seiji, Meizumi, Lin, Kusudu, Yuni, and Fuyukawa Kokoro are all here. Furthermore, we're inside a shelter cabin engulfed by a blizzard. I'm getting fed up with the slow speed of my thoughts.
DID。乖離性同一性障害だね。
DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. Even though I, Yuni, know full well that's not what's happening here. Yuni slowly opened his mouth. I kept my own shut as I carefully listened to his speech. The main point was this. Yomogi, Yuni, Lin, and Fuyukawa Kokoro, these four people are all boarded a small passenger plane flying toward Wakanai. But on the way, the plane crashed due to some sort of problem. They were then thrown deep into the recesses of a snowy Mount Akakura. The time of the crash was around 7 hours ago, a little past 4 p.m. The date was January 11th, of course. They miraculously survived uninjured and wandered around in the snowstorm for a while before arriving at this mountain cabin. Formal name, Mount Akakura Emergency Shelter Cabin. They survived through the twin calamities of the crash and the blizzard and managed to reach the shelter cabin where they could finally rest. When the storm settled, the rescue team's helicopters will surely arrive, or so they believe. However, an unexpected situation occurred, and the origin of the situation was none other than me. Yukito Satoru's personality and Fuyukawa Kokoro's existence. Yuni spoke.
墜落のショックで突発的に DID になっちゃったんだと思うよ。
Maybe from the shock of the crash, she suddenly developed did?
精神的にすごいダメージを受けて。
After being dealt a painful emotional blow,
その耐え難い苦痛から逃れるために、ココロンはもう一人の人格を自分の中に生み出してしまったんだ。
Kokoron gave birth to another personality within herself to escape from the pain. Lin answered
あり
him,
えないわ。急性の多重人格障害なんて聞いたことないもの。
Impossible, I've never heard of a split personality occurring so suddenly.
この女は嘘をついてるだけなのよ。
That woman is just lying.
第一、この女は私しか知らないはずの有機堂悟という名前を。
First of all, she spoke Yukido Satoru's name, a name that only I should know. Why should you only know that? I held myself back and endured the impulse to object, because now simply wasn't the time to lash out. At any rate, figuring out this mysterious phenomenon is a higher priority. Let's continue with the talk. Uni reasons that the Yukido Satoru personality is a fictitious existence produced by Fuyukawa Kokoro's
にわ
consciousness.
かには信じがたいね。
It's hard to take it all in so suddenly. Yamogi just shook his head. Yep. Uni is the one to be warned about as a liar. Naturally, I didn't support this theory either, because I had memories from Sphia. But what if those are fake? I couldn't answer that dissenting voice inside me. There's no proof either for or against that theory. In any case, I have no memory. None that isn't related to Sphia, the shelter cabin anyway. If Yukido Satoru's personality is a fictitious existence, produced by Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousness after all, no, there's no way something so ridiculous could be true. Logic is useless in this case. I am me. I am Yukido Satoru. My indefinite consciousness can't be the product of someone's imagination. Suddenly did? Absolutely absurd. Childhood trauma is the main cause of dissociative personality disorder. New personalities aren't suddenly shaken into existence due to a plane crash or two. That's right, Uni's theory had to be wrong. There has to be some other way to explain this. The discussion over, Uni put his lips near my ear and whispered to
大丈夫。
me,
サトルはきっと元に戻れるよ。
It's alright, Satoru will go back to normal for sure. Those words that he quietly said to me. I guess Yomogi and Lin didn't catch the whisper, as they both wore expressions of unmasked doubt. As for myself, I too felt the same. I didn't get the true meaning of Uni's words at all. It means he'll get turned back into Satoru. He'll go back to his own body. He finished restoring the newspaper during Uni's speech. Was it because of the combined efforts of 4 people? We'd made far more progress than I
でき
thought.
た
We
こ
did
れ
it.
で完成だな。
With this, it's complete. Yomogi folded up the patchwork newspaper like it had been before. Then he laid it flat on the table before our eyes. The 4 of us crowded around. My eyes were fixed on the headline. July 4th, Monday, 2011. 3 decomposed male and female corpses found on Mount Agakura. Missing passengers from the HAL crash? Question. The Aomori Prefecture Police announcement. The recent discovery of the remains of 3 men and women on Aomori's Mount Agakura. Believed to be victims of the crash of flight HAL-18, which claimed 27 lives this January. As they had undergone extensive decomposition over a period of 6 months, the identities of the bodies are unclear, but they are assumed to be the last 3 unaccounted for among the missing passengers and crew members on HAL-18. The bodies were discovered 1 kilometer east of the Mount Akakura shelter cabin. It had been confirmed that the 3 received a large number of lacerations, believed to have been caused by the avalanche which they were caught in soon after surviving the crash. However, due to the bodies of the victims being discovered far away from the route down the mountain, the Aomori Prefecture Police investigation into the day of their death will continue. According to the Aomori Weather Observation Department, the avalanche affected Mount Agakura and the surrounding area occurred at 17th of January 2011 at 6:53. After analyzing the traces left at the Mount Agakura shelter cabin, it was concluded that those who had used it survived for 7 days after the crash. The horrific crash of Flight 18, with the discovery of the bodies, 3 bodies, claimed 30 lives out of the 31 crew members and passengers aboard. The name of the survivor, Kusuda Unikun. The names of the 3 discovered bodies, Yomogi Seiji-san, Mayuzumi Lin-san, and Fuyukawa Kokoro-san. The instant I finished reading that, a chill ran down my spine. From the moment I saw Fuyukawa, the name Fuyukawa left Yomogi's mouth, I had somehow felt it. But after seeing this page, the premonition had turned into a conviction. I know of this incident, of course. I remember it very clearly. The plane crash on this scale hadn't happened for decades in this country. If any Japanese person had taken a glance at the paper or the TV news around that time, they'd remember this horrible accident. However, that just wasn't the case with me. Regarding this accident, I alone was in a unique position among the majority of the Japanese population. Mayuzumi Lin, the woman who was once my girlfriend, had boarded that plane. I remember it clearly. Lin lost her life in that incident exactly 1 year ago. But right now, before my eyes, Lin. On seeing the article, Lin had frozen stiff, staring off into daze. Her face growing pale, she stood rooted to the spot, as though close to death. Yamogi and Uni, too, could do nothing but blink and hold their breath. They were reduced to ice sculptures. Get a grip, no matter what, just get a grip. Psyching myself up to best I could, I looked around. First of all, I had to wait and make sure that this really was the shelter cabin on Mount Agakura. A door entered my field of vision. I thought of saying something to them, but changing my mind, feeling that it would be pointless. After taking the lantern off the table, I strolled out through the door without a word. Outside was the blizzard. The snowflakes descended without end, advancing on me in cold waves. I bent down, held my hands over my head, and directed the glow of the lantern toward the entrance. There was a sign fixed there. Mount Agakura Emergency Shelter Cabin. Those words were clearly written on the sign. However, I couldn't just believe that what I read on a single sign. I looked out into the darkness. I couldn't see anything. Was this really Mount Agakura? I felt as if its true shape was concealed, hidden on the other side of that darkness. I boldly threw myself into the snowfield. And Yagomi drags you back. And you end up drowned. A world blurring black, an infinite space devoid of depth. Isolated and alone, drifting away. I was in the center of the world. In the vastness of space, with me and its origin extending far away at near light speed. There was no gravity, therefore I couldn't tell one axis from another. Silver particles flowed smoothly through the space in a stream. I tried to catch them, but my body didn't move the way I wanted it to. I tried to breathe. A large quantity of some foreign substance flowed into my trachea. I began violently choking. I can't breathe, it's too painful. A strong electric current ran through me. My limbs stiffened and then went into convulsions. I gasped wildly as my body sought oxygen. What? What the hell is this? What the hell is going on? I really don't understand. Either way, I had to escape immediately. Moving my limbs the best I could, I struggled to move. I turned around and around, searching for an exit. Before my eyes was a silver wall. It rustled as I drew a ridiculous curve. Convulsions of my limbs became more and more violent. My insides were burning hot. My heart raged. My consciousness grew hazy. I exhaled one last time. Bubbles around me swayed as they slowly rose, as a stream of tiny particles hovered there. I followed them with my eyes. Little by little, the globular bubbles disappeared to somewhere far away, and were soon absorbed into the silver barrier. They vanished, painting ripples across the silver substance. I reflexively stuck out my arm, toward the wall, toward the exit. From my hand to the wrist, everything vanished, swallowed up by the silver barrier. My hand touched something. My hand caught hold of it firmly. I drew my body towards it at once. I sat down on the floor, devoid of all strength. I hung my head and leaned back against the wall. I inhaled deeply over and over again, but my wild breathing still wouldn't settle. The concentration of oxygen in my blood was still too low. My consciousness was dim. I couldn't gather my thoughts at all. But there was one thing I knew. Somehow I had survived, I guess. And right at that moment, I heard the sound of a door closing. The sound wasn't from the bathroom, it seemed to come from the other side where the door to my room was. Did someone enter the room, or did they leave it? I wasn't sure, but there was nothing I could do about it. Wouldn't he be really drowsy because he took sleeping pills right now? My body was heavy like a lump of lead, making it difficult to even crawl. The only thing I could do was listen with the utmost care. I couldn't hear a thing. It was completely silent. Does that mean the sound I heard was that of someone leaving? My current hazy state of consciousness, even coming to such a simple conclusion, took a considerable amount of time. Phew. One way or another, at least my breathing had finally returned to normal. My pulse was steadied as well. Only the inside of my head still felt blurred, as though a mist had enfolded it. I tried taking another look around the room. I was in the bathroom in Svea. I didn't know whose room it was. My surroundings were engulfed in a pure white steam. I still glanced at the bathtub to my right. It was filled with hot water. It seemed to be the source of the steam saturating the air.
戻ったのか
I came back. I came back to my original world. Back from the world of the dreams to the real world. I looked down at my body. It was definitely male. A body I was familiar with. However, one thing that it was different from usual. My whole body was soaking wet. Why? Nothing much to think too deeply about. I nearly drowned just now. In that bathtub to my right. Thinking about what happened earlier, it seemed like I had been sinking into the water head first. But I don't know why or how things ended up like that. The memories I had of being in Svea stopped around the time I dropped the cups in the kitchen. I remember nothing of what happened in Svea from then on. Naturally, I had no memory of filling the bathtub with water and diving into it with my clothes still on.
一体何があったって言うんだ
Damn, what exactly happened here? Did? Was my body controlled by another personality during that time? But why was I in the bathroom with my clothes still on? Moreover, head first upside down in the bathtub. Did I fall over? Or, I recalled the sound of the door I just heard. If that was the sound of someone going out, it means someone was close by while I was drowning. If they were outside the bathroom, there's no way they wouldn't have noticed that something was amiss from my frantic struggling. Normally, one would at least check to see what happened. Leaving my room without a word, it's too unnatural. Something must have happened. I felt a vague sense of unease. Standing up unsteadily, I left the bathroom. I entered my room. I was the only one in it. My head was still heavy, like a stone clod had been driven into it. On entering the room, I finally noticed it. This sudden feeling isn't just due to oxygen deprivation. A stronger, more instinctual force seemed to be affecting me from within. Anyway, I needed to lie down. My clothes had been drenched, but it was a pain to take any of them off. Who cares? Anyway, bed. Staggering along the wall, a strong dizziness assailed me. I lost my balance. My legs became twisted, staggered, and then fell. Toppling down like an old tree, I had no energy left to recover. Drowsiness hit me the instant I landed. Sleepiness of an intensity that I couldn't fight with strength nor will. My consciousness faded. Disappearing. I was falling into a bottomless quagmire. Use my word to describe this. Calmness. Okay. Like yesterday, there was a storm outside. The hoarse whir of the wind hurt my ears. The sound filled me with a terrible melancholy. Having decided to stay as far away from the windows as possible, I was now sitting close to the door. But even that didn't bring me to any peace of mind. The sound of the blizzard filled with every nook and cranny of the room. Of course, it wasn't the weather's fault. I was in such a dark mood. After all, the ominous situation was drawing ever closer. And here I was in the midst of it all. One could easily argue that feeling depressed was natural. There was just too much to think about. My brain couldn't operate fast enough to process everything. But I never once considered giving up. Gathering my thoughts, I slowly went over to my endless list of worries and troubles. I grappled with the mountain of challenges for 4 hours. I hadn't stopped thinking since waking up, and as my thoughts finally took shape, I somehow noticed a means of escape. Before I describe it, I'll sort out the situation first. The various problems I'm facing can be roughly classified into 4 categories. The shelter cabin, my symptoms of did in Svea, my amnesia, my near drowning in the bathtub last night. Now, let's go down each thought path in order. The shelter cabin. Until yesterday, I was convinced that everything that happened in the shelter cabin was just a dream. But it's different now. I no longer think that's the case. Perhaps the things happening there truly are taking place in the real world. Though I have no basis for this. It's highly detailed and well-constructed reality, or I directly felt cold and pain, and so on. I can easily make those simple claims, but that doesn't mean there's evidence that that reality exists. Defining reality and fiction is an awfully hard thing to do to begin with. Then why did I come to think that it wasn't a dream? That's because I found another way to explain it. Let's begin from the conclusions. For the conclusion. I definitely think I simultaneously experienced a time jump and a personality exchange phenomenon. It's kind of a weak explanation, but I can at least use this as a basis for further reasoning. First, the time jump phenomenon. In the shelter cabin, there were 4 people: Yomogi, Lin, Uni, and the physical body of Kokoro. 3 of them died on January 17th last year. People who were supposed to be dead had appeared right in front of me. How can I explain this? How can I call them? Could I call them ghosts or something? No, that can't be right. They had substance. There's no doubt about that. They, who'd survived since the plane crash, had made it to the shelter cabin by struggling to get there with all their might. This fact lines up with the details reported later by the press. They survived until January 17th in that shelter cabin. Also, from what they said, I know for a fact that the scene I saw from January 11th immediately after the crash. If I had to make a guess based on that information, I have no choice but to think that at that moment my consciousness jumped through time to Mount Agakura on January 11th, 2011. Of course, that doesn't mean I can completely throw away the ghost dream or delusion theories. But deep inside me, I strongly feel that that world is real, it's tangible, it reacts. I just can't stop thinking about it. I jumped through time, maybe. I don't know how something like that could have happened. But right now, recognizing that I may have jumped through time was more important. To dismiss everything as a delusion or a dream is easy, but it's important to always keep the worst case scenario in mind. What's the worst that could happen? I get time traveled. That world. What if we assume that it is reality? With that in mind, the smartest thing to do in this case is to think about my next move. Next up is the personality exchange phenomenon. But since the overlap with 2, my symptoms of did and sphere, I'll move on to the next item. My symptoms of did and sphere. When I saw it that shelter cabin is real, then it means that my consciousness is going back and forth between Mount Agakura in 2011 and Osogi Island in 2012. My body at Mount Agakura was that of Fuyukawa Kokoro. During the time I was there, what happened to my body back in Osogi Island? Asagi Island? Let's start from the conclusion again. Perhaps Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousness was transferred into my body. When my consciousness possesses Fuyukawa Kokoro's body in the shelter cabin, Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousness possesses my body in Sphere. When my consciousness goes back to my body in Sphere, Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousness goes back into her body at the shelter cabin. Based on the testimony of the others at both the shelter cabin and Sphere, this appears to be the case. That is to say, as I thought I never did. I can say the same thing at both the shelter cabin and Sphere. I don't suffer from any mental disorders. I was simply dragged into this baffling circumstance that could only be called a personality exchange phenomenon. However, even with that said, this isn't an easy case that can be settled simply by explaining it as a personality exchange phenomenon. This is because this unbelievably weird, near supernatural phenomenon accompanied it, the time jump. Troublesome indeed, a nasty situation. How did this happen? I don't have the slightest idea what might have caused it. And since I don't know the cause, I don't know when the phenomenon will occur next or when it will end. Though I have a hunch that it hasn't happened since last night. Perhaps while I was asleep, the time jump phenomenon plus personality exchange phenomenon occurred. Time jump phenomenon plus personality exchange phenomenon. Hereafter, I'll call it the exchange phenomenon. No matter how hard I thought about it, I didn't get anywhere. Time is of the essence of investigating the cause of all things, but right now there wasn't one thing I could do. I had no clear target. But if the hypothesis of the exchange phenomenon holds true, then it'll make sense of the following events. I was familiar with the names of Yomogi, Uni, and Kokoro. This is probably because I remember the plane crash. Yomogi and Kokoro, who were discovered together with the decomposed body of Lin, plus the sole survivor Uni, may have been etched so deeply into my head that I couldn't forget them. I'll explain my amnesia in detail later. For now, my recollections of them seem to be due to the above reason. Next, Uni. If the personality exchange theory is correct, then the enigma of Uni in both worlds at once is solved. Since the world in the shelter cabin is in 2011 and the world of Sphere is in 2012, it's not impossible. This is my guess. The only one not caught in the avalanche on January 17th, 2011, Uni, managed to escape death and turned up in Sphere a year later. The sole survivor of the plane crash, Kusuda Uni, I don't know why he came to Sphere. Where did he go and what did he do during that year? And even then, it's uncertain how he managed to get into Sphere. This isn't a facility that an outsider can freely enter and leave. The front gate is always shut tight, and the wall surrounding it is a full 7 meters high. There's no way you could just climb over it. But in reality, he's here. Here as if it were totally natural. The story I heard from Utsumi last night suddenly came to mind. Kusuda Uni exists to exist. What does that mean? Include the matter of the terabyte disk, and it really makes me think that it's necessary to hear the details from Uni himself. 3. My amnesia.
今のあなたは90分前に初めてこの世界に産声を上げた特殊な存在なのかもしれないわ。
So he's recalling what Utsumi said. The courage you, the one I'm talking to, is a special existence, one that gave its first birth cry a mere 90 minutes ago. Utsumi said that yesterday evening. But in the end, that was all based on the assumption that I, Yukido Satoru, have did. Now that the possibility of a personality exchange is seemingly more and more likely, the theory that I have did is losing credibility. Nonetheless, my memory loss can't be explained with the personality exchange, so what in the world could be the cause of my amnesia? Did I take a blow to the head when I fell from the clock tower? I'm sure I can't explain it away as simply as that. But the most implicable part of it, even though I forgot, inexplicable is the word, part of it, even though I forgot most of the details about myself, is the fact that I can clearly remember the period when I was going out with Lynn. The period in which I was going out with Lynn doesn't include the points at which our relationship began or ended. I don't know why we started going out, nor why we parted. Consequently, I don't even remember what happened after we went our separate ways. When I learned that Lynn had died, what was I sad? Did I cry? In the shelter cabin of 2011, when I got to see her again, I didn't thank my lucky stars or jump for joy. Ordinarily, if I'd known she was still alive, it would be natural for me to feel supreme joy at the news. But no such emotion came forth from me. Why? It's because while I was aware of the fact that she died, I didn't feel any sadness over having lost her. Of course, that's also because, at that time, when I still had no grasp of what was going on, I was confused. With my consciousness in that state of confusion, I guess couldn't immediately link her existence to the plane crash. After waking up in Svea, I filed it away in a corner of my mind, thinking it was a dream. But even so, it's very strange. This isn't ordinary amnesia. I really can't figure out what kind of rule there could be linking the things I remember with those I've forgotten. No, maybe that's not it. What if this isn't amnesia, but a memory transplant? For some reason I had that thought. 4. Almost drowning in the bathtub last night. What does he mean by that? Memory transplant. I mean, he's really Satoru, isn't he? So he has Satoru's memories, wouldn't he? Like, it's not like somebody else dated Lynn and then he got those memories. Almost drowning in the bathtub last night. Based on my hypothesis of the exchange phenomenon, I know it's Kokuro's consciousness that dove into the bathtub. While my consciousness was at the shelter cabin, Kokuro was controlling the unattended body of Yukido Satoru. But why did she... Was she trying to kill herself or something? After pondering for a
ま
while...
さかな。
There's no way. I discarded that bad idea as though shaking it off myself. Well then, if it wasn't a suicide
他
attempt...
殺
Murder?
殺人未遂。
Attempted murder? Come to think of it, the sound of the door closing I heard back then. Could that have been the criminal running away? I won't want to believe it. I didn't want to think about such a terrible thing. However, I can't help but consider the possibility. Because I have no memory. I can't confidently declare I don't remember doing anything that could cause someone to resent me. Or perhaps without my knowledge, Kokuro's consciousness had committed some terrible act. Or maybe my body had become the target because of that. Anyhow, I should ask Kokuro herself. Although, since I can't directly contact her consciousness, I need to find a way of getting in touch with her. Well, I'll think about that later. The points outlined above were what I spent 4 hours brooding over. To tentatively lay it all out, it's like this. My mind and Kokuro's go back and forth, exchanging places with the other, between the shelter cabin of 2011 and the Svea of 2012. Uni, who safely returned alive from the frozen Mount Agakura, turned up at Svea a year later. There is a possibility that my amnesia is in fact a memory transplant. Someone might have almost killed me last night. None of this went beyond the realm of pure speculation. I couldn't reach a conclusion. But conversely, I still couldn't deny any of those 4 possibilities. It's smart to always think about the worst-case scenario in advance, as I had said before. While keeping those in mind, I reflected on what to do next. Well, I lost my purpose due to amnesia, but after coming here, I finally found some objectives. They could be divided into the 3 broad categories below. Explaining the exchange phenomenon. I don't know when I'll jump to Mount Agakura again, but how long this phenomenon is going to continue. Going and returning like this over and over for the rest of my life would be unbearable. Even if I put aside wondering when the exchange phenomenon was going to end, trying to figure out the root cause of it was an urgent matter right now. 2. Saving the people on Mount Agakura. According to the history I know, Yomogi, Kokuro, and Lin are going to be caught in an avalanche and die. I can't allow this to happen. Lin is, after all, my ex-girlfriend. Kokoro is, so to speak, my partner. The death of Kokoro could perhaps mean my own death as well. I have to help Lin and Kokoro no matter what. And Yomogi too, of course. We may have only just met, but nevertheless I can't abandon him. Even if he is a complete stranger, there's no way I could turn away and let someone die right in front of me. I'll protect them all for sure. I'll show them I'll show them that I can change history. Maybe this was the task entrusted to me. 3. Being wary of the people in Svea. First of all, I have to investigate whether or not the incident in the bathtub was really a murder attempt. Until I can clearly sort the guilty from the innocent, I need to watch out for the people in Svea. I don't like it, but I have to. In order to protect myself. I'll tell Kokoro about this too. Since during the time of the transfer, I'll have no way of knowing what's going to happen. So I have approximately 3 pressing tasks at hand. Seeing as I'm at Svea, I can't do anything about the Mount Akakura situation, so I'll put 2 on hold for now. This leaves 1 and 3, but since I won't make any progress speculating about these things all by myself, I've got to search for clues by talking with the other 3 here. Especially Uni. Were you really on Mount Akakura 1 year ago or not? If you were, how and why did you come to Svea? What's written on the terabyte disk? How did you get hold of that disk in the first place? Those are the things I need to ask him. Moreover, I have to think of a way to exchange information with Kokoro. Man, imagine translating all of this. Shout out to the fans who translated this. I've really got my work cut out here. Jeesh. There's a lot of translating that had to be done there. I took my wristwatch out of my pocket. 11:03. It's still before noon. I decided to begin without delay. First of all, I'll start with this room. Examining my own room might help me find some clues regarding my amnesia. What is wood carbuncle? I'm gonna Google that right now. Okay, are we ready? Wood carbuncle. Okay, the first result is something about Remember11, therefore I can't read it because there'll be spoilers. Okay, what does carbuncle mean? Painful local purulent inflammation of the skin and deep tissues with multiple openings of a discharge of pus and usually necrosis and sloughing of dead tissue. So it's like an ember. So burning wood? Okay. But it's not something you find like outside of Remember11. Like the first search result, if you search that, it has something to do with Remember11. I didn't read the description of the search result or click on it or anything because spoilers. Okay. So it's not something that's like something else comes up first. Examine the refrigerator is what I would do first, always. I decided to examine the refrigerator. I opened the door. There were bottles of mineral water stored inside. Small 500 milliliter bottles. Of the 3 bottles, 1 had already been opened. It was about 1/3 empty. The mineral water I drank yesterday came from the kitchen, so I haven't touched this bottle at all. Which means that Kokoro's consciousness was operating my body and may have drunk the water. Of course, there was also the possibility that I'd opened the bottle and drank some yesterday before I fell from the clock tower. Well, enough about the water. Everyone drinks water. There was nothing else in the refrigerator. I closed the door. Just in case, I looked on the top of the refrigerator too. Of the several glasses lined up there, only one was placed upright. Only a few milliliters of water were left inside. I probably drank the mineral water from this glass, but who cares about that? Do Japanese people not just drink right out of the bottle? However, I didn't overlook the small silver fragment placed next to the glass. I picked it up. It was obviously a pharmaceutical package. the remnants of 2 pill packages that were already opened. The medicine itself was gone. Still, it's possible to understand something just from checking the package. Okay, so we still don't know why in the world you don't die if you take the sleeping pills and you do die if you don't. Like, that's weird. But you obviously can't do this whole, like, Satoru plot seems independent of the Kokoro plot. So the Satoru plot can't happen if this pill package isn't there to examine. So the only way to get to this side is by taking the pills. Unless there's this weird thing going on with this game where you can actually swap sides and each side, what you do on each side changes what happens on the other one, which would be chaos and crazy. Does Bad in Theater work like that? Well, I haven't, like, examined... I just watched, like, a Let's Play, like, the first part of that game. I'm wondering if that's a game that works like that, where you play as different characters. It changes what happens when you play as the other characters. But anyway... Still, it's possible to understand something from just checking the package. Each tablet was around 7 to 8 millimeters in diameter. They appeared to be round. Needless to say, it was an orally administered medicine. I turned it over. When the torn foil folded back into place, there beside the name of the pharmaceutical company were the following letters. Zegtamin.
ゼグタミン
Zegtamin? An unfamiliar name. What kind of medicine was it? But even if I didn't understand the effects of the ingredients, there was no mistaking that someone had taken it in my room. That's probably what the mineral water was used for. No, who in the world had taken it?
なのか
Was it me? Of course, I don't remember doing anything like that. But if it wasn't me, then it's maybe someone who was operating my body had drunk it. And there was only one possible candidate
心
there.
だ
Kokoro? Kokoro most likely took them. I would be so mad if I figured this out. I should definitely ask her about this later. You don't. Nevertheless.
人の体を使って勝手にわけのわからないものを口にしないでほしいよな
I'd like to ask her to stop ingesting strange things while she's borrowing someone else's body. No joke!
まったく
Seriously now. I returned the silver package to the top of the refrigerator as I muttered to myself. For now, I decided to file away the medicine's name, Zegtamin, in a corner of my mind. Next, I examined the desk. I decided to check out the desk. The objects arrayed across it met my eyes. A notepad and a felt pin lay there.
そうだ
That's
心
right.
と連絡を取るためには
I can use this
こ
to
れを
reach
使えばいいん
Kokoro.
だ
Wait, is this in the choice tree? If I left a message on this notepad, she could read it when the transfer occurred. And she could reply to me in the same way. As long as she left a note behind, then I'd be able to read it once I came back to Sphia. This is my room. No, I should say it's Kokoro's room too. Anyway, this is our private space, so whenever she is in this facility, she'd always come here. This somewhat old-fashioned means of communication isn't exactly what you'd call a luxury, but for now, I can't think of a better way. Took the pen in hand and immediately set about writing a message. Yeah, but you get interrupted in the middle of the message. Okay, so I just ended the source tree on myself. Didn't get a chance to examine the bed or the shelves, which could have contained something important. But what should I write about? After some hesitation, I put the pen back down. I hadn't heard any details from the three in Sphia yet. It'd probably be too late to write a letter later. Won't be too late to write a letter later. Okay, this doesn't end the choice tree. If I wrote something unreliable, it would only confuse her further. Leaving the notepad blank, I moved away from the desk. Next, I should examine the shelves. I decided to examine the shelves at the foot of the bed. Lying next to the alarm clock were two things. The first was something like a card and the other a small metal object. I picked up the card first. Satoru Yukido, 1331-2223-9801. That was engraved into the surface of the plastic
有
card.
機動悟
Yukido Satoru,
俺の名前
my name. It looked like some kind of ID card. I turned the card over, but there was nothing worth describing on the back. My ID card. What was it used for, then where and for what? Come to think of it, Usumi said this to me
あなたは
yesterday.
ここのスタッフだったはずよ。
You must have been a member of the staff,
でも今は確信が持てなくなってしまったわ。
but I'm not sure
も
anymore.
しかしたらあなたは最初から ここの患者だったのかもしれない。
Perhaps you've been a patient here from the start. Right, so she thinks maybe he's a patient when she discovered he did. So which one is it? Staffer or patient? If I was a staff member, then the ID card was probably for the use of Sphere personnel. If I was a patient, what then? It's not like it's strange for patients to have ID cards. Maybe this place requires all patients to carry an ID card. I don't understand. I decided to put the card in my pocket for now. Next, I picked up the small metal object. This was a garden variety key. 2 grooves were carved down its center, and both sides had complicated patterns engraved in them. With just one glance, I could tell that it wasn't a key for a bike or any kind of automobile. Yes, the car keys tend to be symmetrical, and typical house keys tend to be only notches on one side. It looked like an ordinary house key. It was a key that can't be described except with the word key itself. After picking it up, I took a look around me. The first thing I thought of was that it could be a key to this room. Without further ado, I opened the door and tried to put in the lock on the other side. But it didn't fit. That proved that this wasn't the key to the store. I hadn't noticed any other keyholes around.
何の鍵なんだ？
So what's this key for? Thus, it too remained a mystery. I didn't understand what those items were for, but I decided to stop thinking about them for now. I put the key in the same pocket as my ID card. Next, I decided to check out the bed. I removed the pillow and the covers. The white sheets were spotlessly fresh and clean. I stooped and looked under the bed. Nothing but so much as a scrap of litter there. Just in case, I decided to check under the mattress too. I grabbed the edge and raised it high.
雑誌？
A magazine? Magazine had been hidden under the mattress. At first I was flustered, thinking that its contents were probably indecent. Or rather, maybe it's not wrong to say I was hoping so. But sadly, I wasn't one of those magazines. Politics, economics, society, culture, entertainment, the week's current events and gossip topics, news, reviews, in other words, an ordinary weekly magazine. Current Events Weekly was written on the cover. And right below it, July 21st, 320 yen. The cover also included an illustration, but didn't contain any writing. What year was this issue from? I picked up the magazine. After replacing the mattress, I sat down on the bed. I decided to check the back cover. Along with the publisher, editor, and some other names, I found the following description. Issued 7/21/2011. Okay, so the magazine is 7/21/2011.
去年のだ。
It's from last year. That was about half a year ago. I tried flipping through the pages. A certain article caught my eye. How a plane crash survivor finally found. Found after 7 days in extreme conditions. That in itself wasn't particularly astonishing. I already knew that the headline had to be about. How about the contents? There might be some useful information in them. Thinking this, I scanned the article. To sum it up, the control tower lost the plane's signal at about 3:30 p.m. on January 11th, 2011. Its last known location was in the sky over the southern mountain range of Amori Prefecture. The police and related bureaus assembled a special rescue team and immediately commenced the search for the fallen airframe and the passengers. However, despite the ongoing investigations and searches, not a trace of the wreckage could be found. More precisely, the search lasted 6 days. That's interesting. For about a week, the state of the investigation remained unchanged. The whereabouts of the airframe are, as of yet, unknown. Even among the other plane crash incidents that happened in our country, this was an exception among exceptions, an unprecedented event. The sudden disappearance of Flight HAL-18. During the week before the airframe was found, Japan was in an uproar. Speculations flew, even including those that accredited the crash to something paranormal. It might have crashed into the Sea of Japan, or it might have been shot down by a fighter plane from a certain country. No, it was accidentally hit by a ground-to-air missile. Kidnapped by a UFO, swallowed into a different dimension, Flight 18 never existed in the first place, and so on. Of course, all these theories were mere speculation, and all of them were wrong. The authorities would later explain the cause of the delay in the discovery of the airframe as follows. Between the time of the control tower lost sight of the aircraft and the time of the crash, there was a blank of about over 30 minutes. During that time, Flight 18 appeared to have been flying at low altitude, weaving its way through the mountain range. Herewith, the wreckage was found at a place far from the crash point predicted by the authorities. 2. Nobody observed Flight 18's low-altitude meandering. Flight 18 was making its way through a mountainous area in the dead of winter, a highly abnormal flight path. There was no private homes in the surrounding area, and nobody around who could have heard the sound of the crash. 3. Bad weather conditions. At the time, the entire Mount Agakura area was constantly subjected to bad weather. Therefore, conducting an investigation was difficult. 4. The effects of the solar winds. The most intense solar winds ever recorded in history. This disturbance resulted in the malfunction of the reconnaissance satellites. The use of the satellite photography was also impossible. The above was the official statement concerning the lost week released by the authorities. Well, then, on the contrary, how could the rescue team reach the site on the afternoon of the 17th? They simply said, "We got a phone call." Early in the morning on the 16th, the authorities received a phone call from a man claiming to be a survivor of Flight 18. The gist of it was that there were 4 people in the shelter cabin on Mount Agakura in need of rescue. Immediately after that, the call was cut off. Tracing the call to its original, they found that the caller had made use of a satellite phone line. But that line used by the satellite phone was also malfunctioning at the time due to the effects of the solar winds. Chances of getting a proper connection in the year 2011 was 1 in 1 million. Therefore, receiving a call from the survivors was an event that could be described as anything short of a miracle. Incidentally, if not for the phone call, the authorities probably never would have been able to pinpoint the exact location of the crash in time. Anyway, after receiving that information, the authorities attempted to search the area by helicopter right away. But even so, from the 15th until daybreak on the 17th, the whole Mount Agakura was in the midst of a severe storm. They couldn't even fly the helicopter in that weather. The mountain rescue team could have gotten there on foot from the base of the mountain, but not without extreme difficulty. The shelter cabin was near the peak of Mount Agakura. No matter how skilled at climbing the team members were, in estimation, it would have taken them a week or more to reach the cabin. In the end, there was no other option than to wait for the weather to improve. On the afternoon of the 17th, there was a break in the storm, and thus the rescue unit at least managed to arrive on the scene. This is the important part. If not for the historical truth of the successful connection of the satellite phone on the 16th, the rescuers would have never arrived on the 17th. And if that were so, the reported discovery of the wreckage on Mount Agakura would have also been delayed. In other words, it's like this. If the phone hadn't connected on the 16th, the rescuers wouldn't have arrived on the 17th, and the report would have been made later on. Well, if you were to ask me, so what, I'd have to answer with, that's about it, but... Anyway, this was somehow bothering me. I decided to file it away in a corner of my mind. The article continues. On January 17, 2011, 27 corpses, all from those among the 31 missing passengers and crew members, were discovered at the crash site. A single survivor was also found. Kusuda Uni. Right, the report would have happened July 4th, not June. Well, this is July 21st, though. That's interesting. Now, what about the remaining 3? The man on the phone had said there were 4 survivors. If you include Uni, the number of people matches. The shelter cabin also contained evidence that several people had lived there for days. The authorities interrogated Uni about the circumstances of the accident, but Uni was in an unstable mental state and he remained obstinately silent. Days later, the 3 were identified through the passenger list. Yagami Seiji, Fuyukawa Kokoro, and Mayuzumi Lin. But their whereabouts remained unknown. The 3 that suddenly vanished became a rich source of material for the mass media. Public speculation began to fly once more. Some of them were pretty far-fetched. There were even ones asking if in the struggle over food, did Uni kill the others and then bury them somewhere? Even in the face of scandals like these, Uni never broke his silence. They say that gossip lasts only for a season. Public interest gradually faded away as well. Time passed, and July 3rd, 2011 soon arrived. The snow thawed and the mountain's surface revealed the decomposed corpses of 3 people. From here on, it was just the same as the newspaper I read in the shelter cabin. At 6:53 on January 17th, 2011, the 3 were caught in an avalanche and passed away. The only difference was that the magazine article ended with these questions. How did they survive on Mount Agakura for 7 days at such terrifying temperatures? Even if they knew that help was on its way, why and for what purpose did they leave the shelter cabin? What did Kusada Unikun see during those 7 days? What did he go through? Why does he refuse to speak about it even now? Is he hiding some truth that he doesn't want revealed? Our investigation will get to the heart of the matter next week. Perhaps look forward to it. The article ended with those misleading words.
なんだよ、これで終わりかよ。
What the heck? It ends there? I almost shouted at the magazine. I clucked my tongue. Thinking that I might have missed something in the article, I flipped through the pages once more. Something fell out of the magazine with a swish. I bent over and picked it up. It was a plane ticket. This is actually not Japanese, so I might be able to read it. Okay, boarding pass, Satoru Yukido, Tokyo, Narita, Sydney. He's going to Australia? From Tokyo. What's the date? 18th of January. Excuse me, 2011. 1 day after. Interesting. Specifically, it looked like a boarding pass, but the destination was Sydney Airport, Australia. Yeah. The date of departure was January 18th, 2011. And the holder's name was Satoru Yukido.
どういうことだ？
What does this mean?
俺は1年前にオーストラリアに行こうとしていたのか。
I was going to Australia a year ago? I don't remember that at all. No matter how much I think about it, it's unlikely I'll come up with an answer. I slipped the ticket back into the magazine. I returned the magazine to its place under the mattress as well. I had no idea what was going on. Why I had hidden a 6-month-old magazine and a ticket from a year ago in a place like this. He's prepping for that amnesia that he knows he's going to have or something. I felt as if it were part of a plan thought up by someone hiding behind the scenes. Actually, I felt like someone had expected me to look under this mattress. No, perhaps that someone was really me before I lost my memory. My name was printed right there on that ticket. The mystery kept getting more and more complex. But there was no use in getting obsessed over it. I'll work on solving the mystery of the magazine and the ticket eventually. As I thought that, I decided that I would now... No, there appears to be nothing left to examine. I've checked out all the things I had in mind. If there weren't that many of them to begin with, so I don't think I've overlooked anything. There weren't, okay. The next thing I had to do was to talk to the other three people here in Svea. I left the room. I stood in the middle of the dining area and surveyed the room. I immediately spotted the other three. Utsumi was standing in the kitchen, both hands on her waist. She appeared to be thinking about something. Yuni and Inabushi were sitting next to each other on the sofa. It looked like they were having fun talking, but I couldn't make out what their conversation was about. I decided to head over to Utsumi first, since she was closest.
おはよう、冬川さん。
Oh, good morning, Fuyukawa-san.
あれからぐっすり眠れた？
Did you sleep well after that? She turned to face me as she said that. Hi.
おはよ
Good morning.
う。おかげさまでぐっすり眠れたよ。
I managed to sleep soundly thanks to
ていう
you.
か、起きたのはだいぶ前なんだけどな。
In fact, I only just got up. Like you got up 4 hours ago, but whatever.
あれ？その言葉遣い、
Ah, that way of speaking.
もしかして有機堂くんなの？
Could it be Yukido-kun? Utsumi noticed immediately. I hadn't needed to tell her after all. Yes?
あら、ごめんなさいね。
Oh my, I'm
ゆう
sorry.
べ最後に会った時は冬川さんだったから。
It's because you were still Fuyukawa Kokoro the last time we spoke. A frank answer. She really believed that I did. But I think my exchange phenomenon theory is much more likely. Well, nothing will come of it if I try to explain it to her, though. I don't think she'd believe me, and even I have my doubts about it. There's no harm in letting her believe I have did. I tried to steer the conversation in another direction.
ところで内海さん、こんなとこで何してるんだ？
By the way, Utsumi-san, what are you doing here?
もうすぐお昼でしょ？
It's almost noon, isn't it?
だからご飯の準備を。
So I'm preparing lunch.
準備って。
Preparing?
でも、まだ何も用意してないじゃないか。
It looks like you haven't even gotten started yet.
ああ、確かにそうね。
It certainly does look like that.
じゃあ準備の準備って言い直そうかしら。
I guess you could say I'm preparing to prepare.
お
実はね、まだ何を作るのか決めてないのよ。
Quite honestly, I haven't decided what to make yet.
時間が時間だから朝食風の献立にするべきか昼食風の献立にするべきか迷ってるの。
Because of the time, I have trouble deciding whether to go with a breakfast menu or a lunch one.
なるほどね。
Ah, I see.
あ、そうだ。
Ah, I've got it.
ちょうどいいからユキド君に決めてもらおうかしら。
Why don't we get you to decide, Yukito-kun? That would solve everything.
朝食風と昼食風どっちがいい？
Breakfast or lunch style? Which would be better? I gave her my answer. We're in Kokoro, it's breakfast, right? So
で
breakfast
きれ
style.
ば朝食風の方がいいな。
If possible, I'd rather it be breakfast style.
俺が起きたのはかなり前だけど、まだ何も口にしてないし、
I got up quite a while ago, but I haven't had anything to eat yet.
やっぱり第一食目はあっさりしたものの方がいいよ。
First meal of the day should be something simple after all.
じゃあそうね、
Oh, then let's see.
トーストとベーコンエッグとツナサラダこれでいいかしら。
Are you alright with toast, bacon, and eggs with tuna salad? Yep.
スープはどうする？いらない？
What about soup? Would you like
そ
some?
んなに食べられないわよね。
You probably won't be able to eat that much, right?
スープってどんなスープ？
What kind of soup is
パン
it?
プキンスープ
Pumpkin soup.
得意なのよね私。
It's my specialty.
パンプキンスープ？
Pumpkin soup. As soon as she said that, a chill ran down my body. It made my hair stand on end, and I felt as though I was breaking out in hives.
ちょっと待ってくれ、内海さ
Wait a second,
ん。それだ
Utsumi-san.
けはお願いだから勘弁してくれ。
I beg you, anything but that. Please spare
どう
me.
して？
Why?
俺、苦手なんだよ。か
I
ぼちゃ。
I really hate pumpkins.
なんだかネトネトしてて、べちょべちょしてて、気持ち悪いだろ？
They're all runny and slimy, isn't it disgusting? Yeah, but then you like cook it and it's different.
見た目もさ、岩みたいにゴツゴツしてて、ブサイクだし。
Even the way they look, all rough like a rock, it's hideous.
へえ、かぼちゃが嫌いなんて珍しいわね。
It's rare for someone to dislike pumpkins that much.
俺に言わせれば、かぼちゃを食べる人間の方がどうかしてると思うよ。
If you ask me, it's the people who like them that are weird. She covered her mouth with her hand as she
じゃあ
laughed.
パンプキンスープはなしってことで。
Well then, let's hold off on the pumpkin soup.
ああ、頼むよ。
Yes, please, yes. I answered her. And then,
あ、そうだ。
oh, that's
コ
right.
ーヒー入れたんだけど飲まない？
I made some coffee. Would you like some? She swung into a completely different subject. I do not drink the
い
coffee.
や、遠慮しとくよ。
No, I'll pass.
どうして？
Why?
適度な量のカフェインは体にいいのよ。
Moderate amounts of caffeine are good for the body, you
疲
know.
労回復、覚醒作用、それから利尿効果、
Recovery from fatigue, an awakening effect, diuretic properties.
体内の老廃物を速やかに代謝してくれるからお肌にもいいんだって。
It quickly metabolizes the body's waste products, so that they say it's good for the skin too. I haven't heard anybody say any of these things.
へえ、そうなんだ。
really?
でも、俺は男だし、美容にこだわってるわけじゃないから。
But I'm a guy, so I'm not particularly concerned with beauty.
そう。
I see. Because I guess I'm Japanese and not Korean.
じゃあ私は飲んじゃおっかな。
Then I guess I'll just have some myself. Saying that, she poured herself some coffee, and with her mug in hand, took a seat at the dining table. I sat down opposite her.
ゆきどくんは何時に起きたの？
What time did you wake up, Yukito-kun? She asked after placing the cup to her lips.
6時半ぐらいかな。
Around 6:30, I guess. I answered as I absentmindedly watched the steam rising from the cup.
6時半？ずいぶん早かったのね。
6:30, that's quite early, isn't it?
眠りが深かったからな。
It's because I slept so
その
well.
分、早く起きちゃったんだと思う。
That's probably why I woke up so early.
なるほど、そういうことね。
I see, so that's it.
聞いたでしょ、あの薬。
The medicine was effective then, wasn't it?
薬？
Medicine? I asked her before I knew it. The empty medicine package I found in my room earlier. It immediately popped into
そ
my
れっ
head.
て、ゼグタミンとかいう薬のことか？
You mean that Zegtamin medicine?
ええ、そうだけど。
Yes, that's right.
じゃあ、 あの薬は内海さんが。
Then you were the one who gave it to me, Utsumi-san. An aura of puzzlement colored my eyes, and she looked away. And then, as if suddenly remembering something, she thumped a fist into her palm.
そっか、そうよね。
Oh, I see, that's right, isn't
ユ
it?
キド君はあの時のことは覚えてないのよね。
You don't remember that at all, do you, Yukito-kun? Okay, next thing, I'm gonna right now just Google Zegtamin. Zegtamin. Okay, the first thing that shows up is a page for Remember11, which is because this is something
あの
completely
時って
okay. It's not something like outside of Remember11.
だ
That
から私があなたに冬川さんに睡眠薬をあげた時のこと。
I gave the sleeping pills to you. No, I mean to
睡
Furukawa-san.
眠薬
Sleeping pills? I shouted in surprise.
どうしたの？
What's wrong?
何かまずいことでも？
Is everything all
い
right?
や、なんでもない。
No,
大したこ
forget
とじゃ
it.
ないんだ。
No, forget it. It's nothing serious. Despite my calm exterior, inside my head was spinning. I had remembered something. My condition last night. Hazy senses, dizziness, loss of feelings in my arms and legs. Afterward, I collapsed on the bed and was then attacked by intense drowsiness. I see, Zegtamin is a sleeping pill. I hadn't noticed until she mentioned it, but now that I think about it, it makes sense. Kokoro got the medicine from Utsumi and had taken it before the transfer. But
なあ
why?、
内海さん。
Hey,
どうして
Utsumi-san,
あなたは心に睡眠薬なんてものを。
why would you give Kokoro something like sleeping pills?
面白いこと聞くのね。
What a question.
睡眠薬をあげる理由なんて一つしかないでしょ。
There's only one reason to give someone sleeping pills, isn't
そ
there?
れは
And that is, if you want to murder them, of course.
寝つきを良くするために。よ、
To allow them to sleep soundly.
それ以外に答えようがないわ。
Why else?
じゃあ、心の方から頼んだってことか？
So was it Kokoro who asked for
彼
them?
女が不眠を訴えて、それで内海さんのところに？
She came to you complaining of insomnia?
いいえ、私の方からあげたの。
No, I was the one who offered them to
昨日
her.
はいろんなことがあったじゃない。
After all, a lot happened yesterday,
だ
right?
から疲れてると思って
That's why I thought she'd be
ぐっ
tired.
すり眠った方がいいと思って。
I thought she could do with a good night's
まあ
rest.
あなたの症状に対する処方箋の一つみたいなものよ。
Well, it's one of the medications often prescribed for those displaying your symptoms
精
too.
神科医の立場からあの時のあなたに最も適切な薬は何かと考えて。
As a psychiatrist, I had to consider what medication would be most appropriate for you at the time. You realize that sometimes, usually the most appropriate medication is nothing.
それでゼグタミンを。
And that was Zegtamin.
その時、犬伏恵子はどこに？
Where was Inabushi Keiko at that time? My thoughts never stopped coming. Even as I pressed her for answers, I lobbed another question at
彼
her.
女の部屋にいたわ。
She was in her
も
room.
っともあの時の彼女は犬伏恵子ではなく鈴影ほとりだったみたいだけど。
However, at that time, she appeared to be Suzukaje Hotori rather than Inabushi Keiko.
で、心が薬をもらった場所は？
So where did you give Kokoro the
同
medicine?
じよ、ほとりちゃんの部屋。
In Hotori-chan's room. For a moment, that's what she said bothered me. Because then Hotori-chan would know that the medicine had been given. Even Utsumi had begun to call Inabushi Hotori instead. But that didn't really matter the least right now. I continued my line of
それ
questioning.
じゃあ彼女は、あなたが睡眠薬をあげたところを見てたわけか？
Then does that mean she saw you hand over the sleeping pills?
どうかしら。
And I wonder.
意識を失ってたから見てないと思うけど。
She was unconscious, so I don't think she saw.
意識を失ってた？
She was unconscious? According to Utsumi's story, Suzukaje Hitori, or Inabushi Keiko, had a second fit right before that. She suddenly started to scream and then went on a rampage. The one who restrained her was Kokoro in my body, who just happened to be at the scene.
そっか。そんなことがあったのか。
I see, so all that happened. As I drummed on my temple with a finger,
一応念のために聞いておくけど、
let me ask you just in case.
ユニはそこにはいなかったんだろ？
Uni wasn't there, was
い
he?
たわよ。
Yes, he
ほ
was.
とりちゃんの悲鳴を聞いて駆けつけてきたの。
He came running after he heard Otori-chan
つま
scream.
り、同じ部屋に4人が？
In other words, all 4 people in the same room?
そういうことになるわね。
I guess that's how it was, yes.
ねえ、どうしてそんなこと聞くの？
Hey, why are you asking about
いや
this?
ちょっとな。
I just...
はあ？
Utsumi tilted her head. For the look of things, her inquiry was purely
ありがとう
innocent.
いろいろ参考になったよ。
Thank you, you were really informative. There's nothing to be gained from pursuing this further. I cut the conversation short and took my
あ
leave.
そうだ
Oh, that's
パンプキン
right.
スープのことだけど
About the pumpkin soup.
わかってるわよ。
I know, I
今
know.
後一切かぼちゃはメニューには入れないようにする。
I'll leave pumpkin off the menu, just this once. She had a refreshing smile. She didn't seem to be worrying very much about my questions.
かごめかごめかごの中の鳥はいついつでやる夜明けの晩につると亀が滑った後ろの正面だれ
Inubushi's singing? What? On my way to the terrace, that song reached my ears.
ね
Let's see.
ほとりちゃん
Tori-chan. Ginny answered cheerfully. Her white hands covered both of his eyes.
あったり
You got me. For some reason, she's not mute when Satori's listening.
正解はほとりちゃんでした
The answer was Hotori-chan. She lowered her hands, exclaiming that in a delightful voice. Ginny turned around and let out a cheer.
わいわいやったね
I did it.
ねえねえもう一回やろうもう一回
Is that the only thing Uni knows how to do that he calls playing? Hey, let's play again.
いいわよ
Okay. It was just the 2 of them here. The sight of them at play, which would normally be a pleasant sight, did not appear that way to me. With just the 2 of them playing Kagome, it felt, how should I put it, eerie. Oh well. That aside, I had other things on my mind. Watching them from the corner of my eye, I made my way out to the terrace. I slid open the glass door and stepped outside. The weather showed no sign of improvement. The howling wind embraced my body as its chill pierced me to the bone.
寒い
Cold. I dove back into the living area. I went back to my room to grab a coat and after putting it on, returned to the challenge of the storm once more.
全然ダメだ
No good.
コート1枚ぐらいじゃ気休めにもならないか
A single coat hardly changes anything. Not that kind of coat, it won't. But there's nothing else for it. I don't have anything to add on as an extra layer. I gave up and plunged into the snowstorm. I shoved my hands deep into the coat pockets, ducked my head, and kept moving. Though it was just before noon, the sky was dark. It was an unsettling color as though ink had been spilled across it. A biting cold wind, a myriad of snowflakes flying about before my eyes. I stopped shivering and managed to awkwardly turn my head. Beyond the white-out landscape, I could make out the silhouette of the building. In the middle of all was the clock tower, soaring over the scenery below. I lifted my gaze upward.
あそこから落ちたのか
I fell from there, huh? I muttered through trembling lips. Why did I even come out here? I just wanted to check out the clock tower. Wasn't that it? Having listened to... Okay. There's so much text. I'm gonna save here. I wanted to get through all this, text, but man, there's just so much text. Be like, was that the whole game? No, this particular, day, this particular set of scenes is very text-heavy. As in, information dump, verbose and detailed stream of consciousness kind of text. Anyway, I didn't really learn very much new playing as Satoru because it turns out Satoru has amnesia. So he isn't as knowledgeable as you would think he would be playing as Kokoro. What you do figure out is that Uni suddenly popped into Sphia unexpectedly the previous day at 5 in the afternoon or something like that. And he brought with him a terabyte disk that had interesting stuff on it. That's pretty. And we have this Hotori can talk, but not to Kokoro for some reason. And people wear different clothes in front of Satoru. Huh. Okay, let's go to the title. Yes, save the system data. Look at don't have a new ending, so I haven't hit an ending, right? So this is going to be the same. Okay. Just like looking at the structure organization of that a bit. Okay, I don't care about that. Never looked at this in detail. This is the cursor thing, right? Magazine front piece. Emotional flyer. Okay, that should be it.